know it's a Monday. But I think it's Charmichael Dave Show. Jason Ross. Jason.
Hi.
Hello. All right, let me turn this up here. Is that better? More.
We need more Dave.
No, I need more me. Hello.
Yeah.
A little more. You're kidding. Is that better? Better, but still low, huh? Because there you go. Good morning, everybody. We're having, shockingly, we're doing some microphone things. Jay, I'll just say it out loud. On my end, I am right at the edge of overmodulating.
I'm always on the edge.
I'm good now. Okay, we're great. That's all I care about. Other than Jason Ross being in purple, looking great, refreshed, shiny. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. Now, I'll explain as best I can. Everybody, we're full strength for the most part. I am now, because Jason was gone last week, and I know everybody at their works have dealt with different things. I am technically 3 days still warm from my daughter's COVID, and it was fine last week. I could come in the studio because I'm not in studio with anyone when Jason's gone. It's just me, so there's no exposed, prolonged, close contact. But with Jason back now and in studio, hi Jason, my 10 days expires on Wednesday. So we're full strength, but due to previous COVID issues, and I know everyone's rolling their eyes, what do you want? We're back all together in studio, I think, Thursday. Does that make sense? I mean, it doesn't make sense, but did I describe that accurately enough, Jason, do you think?
I think so. I followed the chart.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was your vacation?
That was good. It was good. Yeah, it was good to be away. It feels like I was talking to Jay before the show. It's been a long time since, because it was Vegas. I had to do a show from remote for a week, and then I was off for a week. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been in the studio.
Did you, was this, I know you're famous for your staycations. Was this a staycation? Did you gallivant?
A little trip down to SoCal for a few days, see some family and friends, and then, back up here latter part of the week.
And did you end up doing chores and projects and things, or did you actually relax?
No, it was pretty relaxing, which was good. But there's always chores and projects, but it wasn't heavy lifting. It was pretty relaxing.
Okay.
Yeah. Quality rest and relaxation time, because we're now here to August, Dave. Can you believe that?
I am. And I even see in 3 for Madness, there's a question that, going over the rundown today, Jason, with you back, I'm pretty sure you knocked out most of that. There's a question in there that got me so excited. Normally we don't preview 3 for Madness this early, but your second question says, starting this week, we'll have football every week until the Super Bowl, February 12th. And that just makes me really happy. And at this point, and I don't know if you're the same way, I don't know how much of that happiness is based on the fact that I'm a giant football fan, like we all are, and how much of that happiness is based on the fact that I'm a lazy bastard, and I know that our job is going to begin getting a lot more interesting here very, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably more of the first, but football does lead to – football's really a beautiful thing for talk radio. I mean, right, the layout, Dave, of let's just take a typical – if the NFL started this yesterday, let's say, we'd have a bunch of games to break down today. You'd probably get 2 days worth of it. Wednesday, generally in football season, is the slowest. Thursday, Friday, you're ramping up for the weekend. You have a Thursday. It lends itself beautifully, and also during that time, the Kings get started. We're just around the corner from all those exciting things.
I think it's also too is through the years, you bond to certain people, you get used to them. So being able to, and again, we don't have I should be careful here because we don't have our lineup announced yet. I know that Jay Mars and friends are working feverishly to amass us a football lineup. But for example, last year and for many years, we've had Matt Barrows or Sean Salisbury, or last year it was Eric Armstead, and a number of football people, and it's great because you get to bring these friends on and break everything down all week. And like you mentioned, Wednesday's probably the slowest day, but also it's like that line of demarcation where it's really the last day you spend talking about the previous weekend. You start looking forward to the following weekend. And oh, by the way, I forgot Dave Richard, fantasy football. So,
and Papa.
Oh God, how could I forget Greg Papa, the voice of the Niners? Funny. I got a FaceTime call maybe a week ago from Dave Richard. Now, I've known Dave. Dave's been coming on this show for a long time. We got to be getting close to a decade. I've never FaceTime nor received a FaceTime call from Dave Richard. And I was like thinking, okay, this happens from time to time. It's a butt dial. And I pick up and he's looking at me and I go, oh God, this has got to be great. And it ends up being one of my, Phil, one of my buddies down in Vegas. They're all just hanging out in the elevator, and somehow my pal was wearing Kings gear. And then Dave Richards says, oh, yeah, I know a guy who likes the Kings. And then they started, oh, yeah. And then they FaceTimed. And now the problem is they exchanged information. And I'm in a fantasy football league with Phil. And so now I'm a little afraid that he's going to use my secret weapon, which is checking in when you're not sure of your lineup with a fantasy football expert. So I'm looking forward to having him back on, too.
That'll be great. Yeah, it's almost here. It's too early to draft now, but they're coming.
Do you have any drafts scheduled yet?
No, actually, I was just the longest one I've been in. I was just thinking we haven't heard that or seen that draft email of when draft day is coming, but obviously it's going to be here within the next month. So they're coming. I'm looking forward to that.
We have a big show. I don't have anything particularly special to share over the weekend, other than I spent the bulk of Saturday with a couple of friends, mainly being a DD because I'm not Mr. Drinky Pants, wine tasting in Amador County.
Okay.
I hope he doesn't get angry with me. I can't imagine he would, but probably for me, the highlight of the weekend, we were at a Safeway. I don't even know the town, but it was somewhere near. We were staying in a town called Dry Town, and it was the nearest Safeway about 4 miles away. And I'm rolling through with the cart, and a friend of mine, and all of a sudden I hear, hey, Dave. And I turn around, because that was not a place I expected to hear a hey, Dave. I turn around, and it's Jim Crandall.
Oh, wow.
It was like the greatest thing ever. He's got a little beard going. I believe he was with his granddaughter. He looked so happy. He retired a few months ago. If you don't know,
and he moved away. Like he's out in God's country.
Yes, he is. So we were about, I don't know, hour and a half out, and I don't know how long it took him to get, how far out he was from the Safeway we were. But, man, he, and again, Fox 40's Jim Crandall, long-time sports director.
A beard, how did that look?
It looked good. It looked like retired Jim Crandall was just in the country and had a beard and was just doing his thing. And, it was just like you never left off from wherever. And we were just talking and, talked about Keegan Murray a little bit, talked about the business a little bit. And he's just one of the, as you know, he's just one of the best people. And it was so good to see him happy. So
that's awesome.
And then again to wine tasting, I just want to repeat here real quick. I appreciate, I respect, and I love the wine industry and all they're very nice people for the most part. But my gosh, Jason, and I know you've wine tasted before. Oh, have you not?
I have not.
Oh, really? I mean,
I just got the look from Jay Mars, the resident wine taster on the show. I tasted wine, yes, but I've not gone wine tasting. Not my thing.
No. Listen. I'm
there for the cheese.
Dude, I hear you. It's you and I have about the same alcohol palate.
Yeah.
Which is, you, me, and Scott Moak are on the same. You, the three of us going to a bar is going to be a food only, pretty much. But I will never be able to fully understand, you drink, here's our 2018 Zinfandel and blah, 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 blah. And then you take a taste. And, people do the thing where like they swirl their wine glass.
You get the hints of butter and almond.
Yeah, dude, that's the
What?
thing. It's like, no, you should notice this is a fruit forward Zinfandel with notes of cinnamon and vanilla and the finishes of nectarine, tobacco, and a dead squirrel. And you're like,
Oh, wow.
like, well,
Hold the squirrel.
Right. I don't understand. It's like it's fermented grape juice.
Yeah.
It's grape juice.
I think you were supposed to go wine tasting with a former employee of this station. That will not be named.
Yeah.
That worked on this show.
Yes. Keith Brooks and I were up. I didn't want to say anything. It was a combo birthday thing with families and yeehaw. So there we go. It's just never going to be. I'm with you. I'm there for the food. I'm there for the cheese. And the most random thing in the world is one of the people that was running the wine tasting. She goes up and forages for mushrooms. And we each got a bag of morel mushrooms freshly picked from somewhere near Lake Tahoe. So,
okay. Well, there's the win, I guess. I
don't know if you guys are mushroom people, but I'm happy to bring a couple more. Apparently, morel mushrooms are very good. So it's very exciting. Okay. I have a very exciting story from the weekend.
That's pretty exciting. Your zucchini was a hit. I don't know about the mushrooms.
Yes. The zucchini. In fact, speaking of ex-employees, I gave Jody Bacon the biggest one. Yeah. She. Anyways, yes. We have a big show for all of you. We've got a signing finally with the 49ers. We have a Kings move, but I can tell you right now, the bulk of the show, or a good part of the show, is going to be an icon, a legend, and boy, do those words get overused. Not with this man. Bill Russell, who also has Kings ties, passed away yesterday at 88 years old. We will speak on him so much. We'll have Jerry Reynolds on, who worked with him closely to talk about him and more. Sit back, relax. It's a Monday. It's Dave, Jason, and Jay. We'll be right back.
Sactown Sports 1140 is broadcasting live on is cut number 1.
Hey, that's on me, Dave.
Say it again.
That's on me.
Is that because you haven't been back since we switched the computer thing?
Yeah, and Jay mentioned it. I didn't know I was literally doing this today, so I'm catching up here.
I'm glad you said that because I was sitting here because I am on remote, and I was like, oh God, I'm not going to be able to hear this, am I? That's good. And by the way, it's super easy to get to.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Only a few steps.
Where are you at right now? New personnel?
I am at this point.
Has been an unbelievable mentor, and especially from the standpoint of leadership and understanding group team dynamics and some of the experiences that he's went through and how he was able to manage some of the teams that he's played on and some of the difficulties that he might have faced. And he's been an invaluable ear and voice for me in my career.
That is the late Kobe Bryant. If you are a believer in the afterlife, maybe you can sit back and smile and think about I would imagine Bill's first basketball up at the pearly gates is going to involve old rival Wilt Chamberlain, and then maybe Kobe's on the sideline letting the vets get some run, and then maybe him and pick from anyone. They're getting a little 2-on-2 game going. Bill Russell passes at 88, Jason, and part of briefly part of the Sacramento Kings organization, and it just doesn't get physically and iconically, it does not get much bigger than Bill Russell.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously, we're talking a lot about him today, and Jerry will and everything I almost heard yesterday, Dave. I still feel like he's either the greatest winner or one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Yet, and I appreciate this. I feel like that's like story 6 about him right now.
Right.
I mean, like we're talking about one of the greatest players ever. But then you get into the humanitarian, the stuff he had to live and go through and battle through, a coach, just way, I mean, as a human being, difficult, but also engaging when you want. I don't know. He was everything.
And I think that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. Listen, every sports show is going to spend a lot of time on Bill Russell, and for good reason. And I've said this before, and it's always weird to say. You don't ever say, the thing I like about somebody passing away, but the thing that I enjoy in the middle of a very sad situation, like Bill Russell passing away, I will always say it's when we lose a big personality. I look forward to the oncoming wave of celebrations of his life. And most importantly, Jason, and you mentioned it, listen, we're going to hear about his numbers a ton, and we should, because they were insane. But I do look forward to a newer generation, the ones that just, they know Bill, they know who he is, and I didn't see him play, you didn't see him play, but they know Bill Russell, they know he was great and all that. But I'm looking forward to the off-court stories. Mm-hmm. That will be shared about Bill, what he went through, the struggles he had in Boston, the abuses of his family, all the things that really kind of honed him into who the person he was, who could have been a lifetime bitter, angry, and a lot of people would say that, not that he was necessarily bitter and angry, but that he would sometimes come off very stern, and wasn't an autograph guy. But in the end, when you read about him and you read what he went through, and you still see that he had and Jerry will tell you this today, I guarantee he'll mention Bill's laugh.
Yeah, the cackle.
Yes. And the sense of humor, you go, okay, I'm looking forward, Jason, to the celebration of this guy's life.
As it should be. I mean, right. Not only the basketball player, the icon, the legend, the humanitarian, like everything he had to go. It's just, not many people have had a life like Bill Russell, and that's why it needs to be celebrated and really acknowledged.
We've got a lot of stuff to get to, and we'll get back to Bill here in a second. Every time we talk about him, I've got a bunch of stats I want to throw out. Here's one quick one. Bill Russell once ripped down 51 rebounds in a single game, and he still holds the all-time record for most rebounds in one half when he had 32 rebounds in the first half of a game against the Philadelphia 76ers in 1957. As a matter of fact, as I read that, I got to think, Sixers 57. I got to go back and wonder if Wilt wasn't on that team. I wouldn't think.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't think he's getting 32 and a half against Wilt. Anyways, the numbers are cartoonish. We'll get to that. And we also have some anecdotes about Bill as well. And of course, Jerry Reynolds will join us a bit later in the show. Former Kings coach, former Kings GM, and work very closely with Bill Russell. That is at 8. Number 2.
Cut number 2.
The back is Deebo, pivot handoff to Deebo, coming wide right, gets the edge, first down, all the way down the sideline for Deebo Samuel. Is he in the end zone? Touchdown! San Francisco!
$73.5 million. That is Deebo Samuel is a rich individual, and the 49ers have one of the best multi-purpose, if not, you could argue the best multi-purpose receiver in the game, locked up until I believe 29. He's 29 years old. $73.5 million over 3 years, including $58.1 million in guarantees. That's the max value of the 3-year deal. 7th wide receiver this season to sign a deal worth at least $24 million per year. Before this season, only DeAndre Hopkins had hit that mark. So that's one big offseason and possible regular season distraction that is now gone for the Niners, and Deebo can stop the hold in and begin to play wide out.
Well, pretty good transformation, right? I mean, I was pretty certain, Dave, he was gone. I mean, when you come out openly and say you want to be traded, when it didn't seem like there was anything externally that we could see that was an issue, then it's like, wow, he really wants to trade to me. He's going to be gone. Are they really going to move on from Deebo Samuel? Niners stuck to their guns. Deebo stuck to his guns. They get to the contract. Seemingly, everybody's happy. In the end, I think all we want to see is him play on Sundays, and it looks like we will for the 49ers.
Third in yards from scrimmage with 1,770 yards last year, 6.2 yards per carry, 14 touchdowns, along with 18.2 yards per catch. That led the league. I'm very curious to see, because you heard some rumblings that Deebo wasn't exactly too hot on getting into the backfield. And
right.
I'm curious if Shanahan will continue to do that, or perhaps maybe that was for all we know, Jason. And I would be surprised if that was an issue. You got to think in additional to financial terms, that was part of the negotiation as well.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I understand Deebo's concerns, but Dave, as a weapon, why wouldn't you use him as a runner? He was so gifted there.
Yeah, that would just have to be if Deebo even has concerns, which I don't know that we've ever truly underlined. Number 3.
Cut number 3.
Dellavedova nails a three-pointer. 8 points for Matthew Dellavedova.
Matthew Dellavedova. Hold on.
What?
I've never had an issue with this before. Matthew Dellavedova. Thank you. Okay, jeez. Matthew Dellavedova is 31 years old. He is now, at least for now, a Sacramento King. I think most people will remember him as a counterpart with LeBron James, kind of just a piece of a very large puzzle that did very well in Cleveland. He's also played for the Bucks. He's actually had 2 stints with Cleveland. But again, 31 years old, was in Australia, his native Australia last year. This is I believe he's St. Mary's product.
Yes.
Looking at his stats page, Basketball Reference is always great. They're always great with the nicknames, Jason. So we all know Delly, right?
Mm-hmm.
No problem. And by the way, he'll be 32 by the time the season starts.
Okay.
I did not know that one of Matthew Dellavedova's nicknames was Outback Jesus.
I didn't either.
I completely now know what at least one of my media day questions is going to be, if he's even aware of that. I don't know, 50-50 shot. Maybe he makes the team, or is it's interesting. I just don't want people to misread this signing. Maybe he's going to be an awesome contributor off the bench, but I also, you're talking about a guy with a lifetime 5.5 point, 3.5 assists.
It's depth.
It's
depth.
It's depth, and it's just adding a smart player.
Yeah, known commodity for Mike Brown, right? They had a past a little. I mean, it's just this team, as much as they've done some work around the edges, especially here lately, the back end of the roster with some of the signings. Dave, I'm going to say it again. This team is going to go with De'Aaron and DeMontis. As much as, Keegan's going to help, and Harrison and Holmes, they're all going to be important. But if Fox and Sabonis are not up to par, they're going to be in trouble. If they have great years, I think they got a chance to have something special. But, I mean, to me, it's on those 2 guys specifically.
De'Aaron, DeMontis, Dellavedova.
Okay.
Davis.
Deegan.
Davion. Yeah, I think that's about it. Okay. Anyways, good news for them. Good news for the Kings. More depth. And by the way, as we go, and Jay, I'm guessing we have 30 seconds a minute. Jose Hernandez on the YouTube chat. And hello to everybody in the YouTube chat. Good morning. You can watch us. Sactown Sports 1140's YouTube page. Just search for it, and there we are. Hello. Mentioned, hey, we're going to talk about Bill Russell and his legacy, and we should. But can we get a mention of Nichelle Nichols? Yeah. Abso-flippin-lutely. Said it on Twitter yesterday, and Jason, I know you and I are happy to expand. Nichelle Nichols, who has a wide body of work, but is best known for playing the part of Uhura in the original Star Trek. Also, first on-screen interracial kiss on television, which is weird. I don't know why people say that, because was there an off-screen interracial kiss that happened before that? I don't know.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So she everybody, well, I don't know if everybody, I was one that had an absolute crush on her growing up, and really you talk about icons. She was 100% an icon, and a lot more than just we're on Star Trek too.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, she was, and she definitely lived her best life too, which is always appreciated. So yeah, it was absolutely no problem. Rest in peace, Miss Nichols. We'll take a break. When we come back, all right, our first look at Bill Russell, Bill by the numbers, his connection to the Sacramento Kings, and a couple anecdotes we have as well. We're back in just 2 minutes.
You want more Kings coverage? Sactown Sports 1140's giving it to you.
You know, you'll be watching and thinking, man, like, I guess Keegan, he's maybe not as good today. And then you look up and he's got, 12 and 8, and it's, the second quarter, and he is just so calm, so efficient.
I think it's absolutely what Sacramento needs. I think there's this sense that something special is starting to fall into place.
Log on to SactownSports.com for exclusive content. SactownSports.com.
There was always a crowd gathered around our dining table when I was growing up. Hi, I'm Frank LaRosa with a word about Naturewood Home Furnishings. Everyone was welcome at my mother's table, so holidays, birthdays, and celebrations all
It's the Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross. The only local sports show in the morning on Sactown Sports 1140.
88 years old, and 88 years well lived for Bill Russell, who passed away. We got the news yesterday. We say words like legend, icon. And listen, there's legends and icons and all that. There's Bill Russell. I don't know what the word is.
Greater than all of that. Like he's the reference, right? Dave, you gave what was the stat? 51 rebounds in a game?
Yeah.
Just for a reference, I checked this during the break. Last season for the Kings, the team, the entire team. 8 times in the season the Kings had as a team more than 51 rebounds. That's insane. Just 8. So he on one night would have out rebounded the Kings. What is that? 74 times?
He averaged for his career. Just stupid. He averaged 22 and a half rebounds a game. Just Bill Russell by the numbers. The one that we talked Friday, Jason. We played a clip from Gilbert Arenas talking about ring culture.
Yeah.
And we had a nice conversation about that. Well, if there is ring culture, the culture itself is Bill Russell. 11-time NBA champion. 11 times. Hey, Michael Jordan had 6. That's cute.
Yeah.
Bill had 11. And of course, Friday, and I don't want to get away from that just because the man passed away. We obviously talked about the eras and the differences.
Sure.
You know, the almost monopolies the Celtics had. You still had to win 11. You still had to be healthy. And this is a guy that played 45, 46, and 48 minutes a game in one playoff run. 5 most valuable players. All-star 12 times. Had they kept all defensive teams back then, he probably would have literally made it every single year. He did finally when they started in 69. He made that. The numbers, and that doesn't include his 2 NCAA championships and what he did there. You know, he was a San Francisco Don, so there's definitely some local-ish ties to him. There's just no comparison statistically really to what he did, especially when you factor in those rings.
Yeah, and then just okay, all of you going to work today likely are going with a pretty clear head, know what your job is, and aren't going to have any other, I don't know, I can't go into everybody's workforce, Dave, but I mean, not that racism's gone by any means, but it was so high profile in Boston, and he, you know, moved into a basically a white neighborhood, vandalism every day. I don't know if it's every day, all the time, all the stuff he had to hear. And athletes have to go through some of that now, but not like he did. I don't even know Jackie Robinson, him, Muhammad Ali, how they did it. I really don't.
He was born and raised partially in West Monroe, Louisiana. And there's a ton of anecdotes here, but Jason, you remember your dad and me, my dad. I mean, we can all kind of visualize this. Just one of about 1,000 anecdotes here. Monroe is a very segregated place. And there was racism present there. There's a story Bill told once of his father. They were going to get gas, and his dad was refused service until the staff had taken care of all the white customers first. So his dad, okay, well, I'll go find another station. No, the attendant stuck a shotgun in his face and threatened to kill him if he didn't stay and wait his turn. His mother once was walking outside in a nice dress, and a white policeman accosted her, told her to go home, remove the dress, which he said was white woman's clothing. And I'm putting that out there because in order to understand the man, which, by the way, good luck. We're never going to fully or even partially, half understand Bill Russell. How could you without walking a mile in his shoes? But people say, well, he was known as being stern and, this and that. And, he's very... because he grew up seeing his dad with shotguns in his face and cops telling his mom to go home because she was wearing a white person's dress. That's what informed his upbringing. And then Jason, as you mentioned, he goes into Boston, plays his whole career there, coming from San Francisco and Northern California. And the stuff, and we'll get into this a little bit later when we talk about Bill, the stuff that Bill... I don't even know if stuff is the horrors that Bill Russell had to go through in Boston, I think would break mere mortals, and somehow he was able to keep his head up the whole time. Yeah,
and still get that relationship with Boston to some extent, right? Like I heard stories about, kind of when they retired and honored him, he wanted to do it in an empty gym because he didn't feel that there was the true love for him. They later did another ceremony with him. And then the part where this is the only story I have about it. I never met him. I wish I had. I did see him. He was at Arco near the end of Arco Arena. So maybe 1 or 2 years before the Kings were moving to downtown. And he was there, and it's one of those things like, oh my gosh, Bill Russell is here. So it's larger than life figure. It was down low on the court, and I did see people try to get that autograph and or picture, and he said no. That's always been his thing, not in a rude way, but then he would engage these people. So it's like, if you and I went up to him looking for a picture or an autograph for our own benefit, we would have gotten no's, but I think he would have also then engaged us and talked to us, which I kind of appreciate a little bit more. Now, maybe not everybody got that, but I saw him do that literally, and I thought that was pretty cool.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And in this day and age of autographs, selfies, every somebody sees somebody, you instantly, the selfie is the new autograph. And it reminds me of Bo Jackson, who was at a celebrity golf tournament once, and I approached him for a selfie, and informed by Bill Russell's autograph policy, Hey, listen, I'll shake your hand, I'll talk to you, but I don't do selfies. And I think that came a little bit from Mr. Russell. And he's, again, and Bo obviously also an icon on his own, really valued more of the time spent, the handshake, the eye contact, and the conversation. And when you think about it too, if you have a choice, if right now, if I had a choice between looking on my wall and seeing a signed Bill Russell jersey, or looking in my brain and having a 2-minute conversation with the man, I take a conversation all day long.
Absolutely. I'm with you. And I appreciate that about him. And maybe some of that was I don't know, based on life experience, a safety net, a protection, a shield around him. I don't know. I mean, again, we didn't walk in his shoes. I know his shoes were tough to walk in, though. That's all I do know, not being able to compare. But that I can't imagine that path. I just can't. And he did it amazingly well.
A lot of people don't know this. Bill Russell in college, an Olympic level high jumper, just an unbelievable athlete. Later in life, became a vegetarian, took up golf, worked as a color commentator for CBS and TBS through the mid '80s, and really in the early '90s, lived on Mercer Island in Washington near Seattle, and then after Wilt Chamberlain passed away in October of '99, Russell kind of he entered a different phase in his life where you started seeing him a little bit more and more. In 2009, David Stern renamed the MVP award, and this was a stroke of genius and very appropriate, the Bill Russell NBA Finals MVP. And he even at halftime of the 2009 NBA All-Star Game, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce presented him with a surprise birthday cake when he was 75. It was when Bill Russell is in that special category, Jason, there's a clip on YouTube I always remember of it was some award show in the 80s, and I've talked about this I think once before. All of a sudden, a surprise guest shows up on stage. It's Michael Jackson, late Michael Jackson, and you turn to the crowd, and the crowd is mostly, especially in the front row, obviously, they're artists and superstars. And you see all kinds of people. And I don't know why I noticed this, but a very young Jamie Foxx. They're losing their minds. Jamie Foxx is jumping up and down like one of those ladies in an old Beatles video. He's losing his mind because Mike, and you can even, you can read his lips. And he says, God, he goes, gosh darn, that's Michael Jackson. My point is, Bill Russell, one of the things I enjoyed the most is seeing other NBA stars around Bill, because they instantly are 9 years old again. They're in awe, and that's very fun to see.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because we've got the TVs in here, and they're doing a bunch of different stuff, obviously, on him. And they were showing Bill Russell talking to different people. Now, I don't even know what was being said on TV. We don't have the volumes here. But you're exactly right, Dave. I could read body language. Like, he's talking to Kevin Garnett, and Garnett to me was about as fierce, as intimidating. He did that as part of his power supply, was like, I'm going to intimidate you. Like, his shoulders are slumped. Like, he won't even look at him in the face. It's like, wait a minute. Like, he's just disarmed him, and him Duncan the same. I think Kobe kind of looks at him straight. Like, that's a little bit of the one I could just tell. But just looking at body language, he just disarms these guys.
You got to think, you got to be a pretty special individual when Michael Jordan is humbled in your presence.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, when Michael Jordan is humbled in your presence, that is that's a life well lived. And really now and I was thinking about this too, with Mr. Russell gone, what are we talking? I mean, Kareem, Jerry West.
Yeah, I'm
sure I'm forgetting a couple, but when you talk about the giants of the old guard that carry that torch, and of course, when and hopefully many years from now, Kareem passes away, we're going to have a lot of this similar type of conversation, not just about life, but life off the floor. But with Bill, and we'll get to this a little bit later too. Don't forget, he's part of the Sacramento Kings history.
Yep.
I'm just going to say, when Bill arrived at the pearly gates yesterday, St. Peter had the big scroll and was announcing Bill's presence and was naming off all of Bill's highlights and accomplishments. I don't know how far down the scroll his tenure as Kings coach was, but I gotta think it wasn't near the top. I think he's had plenty of other things he's done well, but he was here. He had an effect on everyone who was around him, and we're always excited to talk to Jerry.
Yes,
but we're very excited, Jason, I think, to talk to Jerry. I would imagine you are too, and hear those anecdotes straight from the man's mouth.
Yeah, maybe it was just omitted at the pearly gates. They just
skip. They just never know. You only have 2 minutes.
Right.
We'll take a break. We'll, of course, talk much more about Mr. Russell later on in the program. In the meantime, sports happened over the weekend. There's a golf repeat. Jason's guy, Aaron Judge, is on fire. Woo! And a bittersweet day for a guy like me. You notice I'm wearing my Giants jersey today. There's a number 22 on the back. Will Clark's jersey, or number, should I say, is on the wall at the park for the San Francisco Giants forever. We'll speak about that right after this.
Breaking news, the latest happenings with your favorite teams.
Do you ever wonder about what the heck all these kids are doing on the computers all the time?
Stay up to date with all of it by following us on Instagram and Twitter.
Excuse me, gentlemen, a little update for you.
At Sactown 1140. The Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross on Sactown Sports 1140.
Tony Finau did something very difficult to do. He won 2 events in a row, winning the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Tony Finau, by all accounts, is a great dude. Had his family with him again. And to see that 2 weeks in a row, see your dad do that, it's got to be pretty awesome. 1.5+ million 5-stroke lead for Tony. He had to come back last week. Here's what's amazing, just real quick on this: 66 of 72 greens in regulation.
Oh, come on. Just like you and I.
Jason, we have played golf many, many times. Here's my question. And by the way, we wouldn't be playing from the tips. We'd be playing from the blues or the whites, unlike Tony. You and I are playing from the whites, and we're playing a 2-man scramble, but we each get 2 shots. So it's like a foursome.
Okay.
We're probably not getting 50 of 72.
Oh, I doubt it.
I feel like 50 is also way high.
Right.
And not that like you and I are the worst golfers in the world. We're probably average to below average. I know I'm below average. You're probably average.
We're okay.
But not that is bananas.
Yeah.
Par threes. He was hitting his drives 310 and still hitting fairways.
Man.
So hey, listen, Tony Finau is hot as all get out, just like your guy Aaron Judge.
All rise.
All right. So first off, Aaron Judge is a big man. Secondly, he's got 42 home runs.
Yes, through July.
Through July. The last time there was a legit home run watch, baseball went absolutely crazy over it. Of course, McGuire Sosa is the one we all remember, but then Barry. I don't know that Judge is getting there, but it's certainly fun to watch this man swing a bat.
Well, it's definitely, like we've said about baseball, this is nothing new. It's even more regional than ever. And the Yankees, I think, are a national team. But when Judge had the walk-off the other day, Dave, the images in Yankee Stadium were like, I don't know, they just were going absolutely bananas. And I think it's one of those things where I've been watching a lot of their games lately, being a Yankee fan. Like every time he comes up, it just seems like the whole stadium stops, which is what I remember about McGuire and Sosa. And then they'd have live cut-ins. Oh, wait, Sammy's up. Yep. Hey, hang on.
Yep.
And then everybody would stop what they're doing. And, Barry's up. He's, this could be number 65 or whatever number weird he was chasing at the time. Judge has got a long way to go, but he's pacing there, and he can hit some significant Yankee numbers, at least between Maris and Ruth, if not getting to Sosa, McGuire, and Bond. So it's fun. I don't know what it'll do overall for the sport, but I think in New York, one, the Yankees are having a great year. 2, Judge is having a great year. And then there's still that thing overhanging him. Like, will he be a Yankee next year?
I'm going to see your Yankees later this month.
Are you?
I did not tell you. Yes, I am. My wife's birthday is August 28th. And she wanted to. I take my dad to the A's game.
I saw that. Yeah, good seats.
She wanted it. She does not. In the best part for you, she wants to go. The baseball is secondary. When she heard there was free food and drinks.
Oh yeah, she's in.
Yeah, she's
in.
Dude,
and the game's going on too.
And by the way, there's the Yankees. I'm trying to think here. McGuire Bonds, or excuse me, not McGuire Bonds, McGuire Sosa, Bonds. I want to say was Matt Williams on pace when the strike hit?
Yes, I believe he would. Or there was some thought about what could he have done had that season completed.
So we've seen that kind of pop up, and baseball obviously could use that. And if Aaron Judge ends up doing it, I mean the all time we know McGuire Sosa, but reading about it, I don't know that there's ever going to be a crazier race. It's just there's like not that many people in our circles, Jason, that remember this. But I don't know that you're ever going to top Maris Mantle, New York.
Right.
2 massive icons. Maris ends up getting the record. Mickey had some injuries going, but it was a big deal. It was all anyone ever wanted to talk about back then by any anecdote. And the pressure on Maris was so bad that Mickey in his book talked about how huge clumps of hair would come, if Roger would just pull clumps of hair out after games because the pressure was just way too much for him.
Yeah. And I think there's 8 people or 8 times 60 or more has happened. So Ruth got 60, Maris 61, Sosa 63, 64, and 66.
Wow.
McGuire hit 65 and 70. And then of course, Barry has the 73. So he's got a long way to go. He's crazy hot. I think when I was watching on Saturday, he had 1 less home run than the Angels for the month. So, I mean, Judge has been great. 42 significant. But, I mean, he could have like a 3-homer or 4-homer month and he's not even close. But if he hits something like, 10 to 12 more in August and he's in the mid 50s, that would be interesting for the final month.
Aaron Judge is a phenomenal player, number 99. Maybe someday that number will be retired. Number 22 was retired on Saturday. That was Will Clark's number.
Oh,
it's Will Clark's number.
Huh.
I got his jersey on right now. One of 3 Will Clark jerseys I have. You gotta have the home, you have to have the road, you have to have the All-Star.
You weren't honoring the other 22s that have been worn since Will Clark?
Oh, heck no.
Not David McCarty, Osvaldo Fernandez, Damon Minor, Eric Davis, Kurt Ainsworth, Jose Cruz Jr., Mike Matheny, Matt Morris, Kichi Yabu, Eli Whiteside, Cole Gillespie, Roger Kieschnick, Jake Peavy, Dan Ugla, Christian Arroyo, and Andrew McCutcheon.
Okay, Andrew McCutcheon, I did honor that
one. None of the rest.
Eric Davis, I forgot about that.
I forgot that he was 22 as well. That's your guy.
That's my guy. It is 100% my guy.
You weren't wine tasting, by the way, during the ceremony.
Oh, God, no.
Okay.
No. I was in front of a television.
Okay, good.
It was, dude, I'm not going to lie. I cried like a bunch. Like, I kept tearing up every single, because he was emotional, but like Will is such a gamer, and he was in game mode. Like, he's always in game mode. He's been on this show twice, and both times, and he can be on the show 10 times more. I'm going to turn into a nervous little schoolboy. Everybody has that person, and Will does not have. Will's not a Hall of Famer. He's never going to be in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't have quite the Hall of Fame numbers. He's in the Hall of very, very good. But for a lot of Giants fans, especially in my era, going from those 105 lost Chili Davis, Johnny LeMaster years, which were in my very infancies of being a baseball fan. And then all of a sudden the Giants grabbed this kid out of Mississippi State who, if you go back and you look at Will Clark's interviews his rookie year, I'm not joking. It'll hit you. If you didn't know any better, you'd think he was from New York. It was like a heavy New York sounding accent, but this is a New Orleans kid. It's just it's a twang that confused me, if you will.
Can you pinpoint though, Dave, why did he land free? And it's not just you. There's a lot of people that Will Clark was their guy.
Yep.
Obviously he was good. I mean, that I understand, but what drew you to him?
Well, the easy stuff out of the way. Obviously, he played for my team. He was part of a renaissance for the Giants, along with Al Rosen and Roger Craig and everybody who they get Will in 86. They win the NL West in 87, made the World Series in 89. So he was really part of that bedrock. And, that's the easy stuff. But the intangibles, first off, and people can argue this all day long. And I'm biased as hell. He's got the best baseball swing I've ever seen in my life. Apologies to Ken Griffey Jr. He's just got the best baseball swing I've ever seen. It looked like a butterfly could land on the barrel of that bat, and he'd hit it 430 feet. But that's fine.
Yeah.
That's not it. It's
because it could have been Robbie Thompson, Jeffrey Leonard, Chili Davis, Matt Williams,
Bob Brenly. Yeah. Could have been Brett Butler. Could have been Mike Krukow. Could have been Don Robinson, Rick Russell, Greg Mint, and Scotty Garrelts. The thing about Will is, and I keep saying this, he was a gamer. He was the player every kid wanted to be, blowing big bubbles with the wad of chewing gum in his mouth. I begged my mother to go. We went to Big Five every year to get eye black. And this is before they had like the little stickers you could put on. And before every Little League game, whether it was cloudy, sunny, it did not matter. I had that eye black underneath my eyes. We always, I was so ticked off if I couldn't get 22. The look in his eyes, the home run off of Nolan Ryan in his very first at bat at the Astrodome, that iconic point into the stands, and that glare. Like, Will Clark is one of those guys where if you just showed player eyes, and obviously the eye black gives it away, you could immediately tell who it was. Would have been Rookie of the Year. but ran and dislocated his elbow in a play at first with Andres Galarraga. The Expos, Todd Worrell ended up winning it that year. But he just brought a leadership and an attitude to that team. Was their unquestioned clubhouse leader. Wasn't perfect. Doesn't have the perfect personality. I'm sure he's got a view or two I disagree with and all the stuff we get into now. But when it comes to the love of the game and being a little boy that dreamed about playing baseball, that was my Mickey Mantle.
Yeah. How much time spent in whether mirror, backyard, bedroom, and mimicking the stance and the swing?
All the time.
Yeah.
And I was so mad that I wasn't a lefty.
Yeah.
I was so mad. And I literally tried to bat switch for the first 2 years of his career because I so badly wanted that lefty swing. And, didn't quite have the pop on it. Wilt did. We'll talk about this later. I know there's a lot of people out there, though. He touched in a way that he may be one of the most influential athletes of all time when you compare what his numbers actually were. That he is one of those intangibles that's almost indescribable. It's one of those if you know type of things. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. We'll take a break right now. When we come back, the NFL is NFLing. We'll talk a little bit about Jimmy G. We got a big Hall of Fame game coming up, and Deshaun Watson gets a suspension. I got questions for Jay Mars on this one. We'll talk about it next.
You ask for more 49ers coverage, and Sactown Sports 1140 listen.
Let's go, Niner gang!
Get all the latest 49ers news and notes online at SactownSports.com. Plus, make sure to follow us on IG at Sactown1140 for Emil Fergoso's live post-game show following every game.
That is what we expect out of the Niner gang. Niners win!
Your home for the most 49ers coverage in Sacramento. Sactown Sports 1140.
microphone. When he's not on the microphone, he's playing a song, and when he's not playing a song, he's on the microphone, and then boom.
With Jason Ross.
Jay, hey, my headset's.
Text or call the show at 916-339-1140. It's the Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross on Sactown Sports 1140.
6-game suspension for Deshaun Watson. Finally, after what seemed like years of investigation, decision-making, third parties, the Players Association already preemptively said they will accept the decision, whatever it may be. The NFL will most certainly be behind it as well. And Diana Rossini spoke to sources, ESPN's Diana Rossini, spoke to sources close to Deshaun Watson, who believe the 6-game suspension is, quote, too much. Mm-hmm. They stand by his claim that he did not do anything wrong. However, they do accept this was a fair process with a neutral party hearing the case and making the decision, which this is a difficult conversation for a number of reasons. Number one, we're not talking about sports. We're talking about whether it's sexual harassment, assault, whatever. We're talking about a very serious off-field important conversation. This is an important conversation, not who's going to rush for the most yards. This is a real convo, number one, with potential alleged victims. Number two, we don't know what happened. We know that there were several cases. I believe all but one has been settled with the assumption there obviously is money was paid out, non-disclosure agreements were signed. And the question there is, well, okay, if you're paying somebody off, then that means you're guilty. Maybe. There's also many, and this is something rich people do. They would rather pay. I don't know, Jason. Let's say I'm a gajillionaire, and you're mad at me for I stole your lawnmower, and we go to court. And I know there's a stupid analogy. Here's my point. At some point I say, you know what, it's just easier. I didn't steal your lawnmower, dude, but here's $1,000 because I don't want it in the press anymore. And I'm going to pay $10,000 in attorney's fees just because I'm not a believer that just because you settle, you're guilty. There's certainly smoke there.
Sure.
But that doesn't guarantee there's fire.
Well, and I think, the little bit since this came out right before the start of the show, as far as the 6-game suspension, the stuff that I've seen on, and we just had a texter text this in, which I think is a great point. The NFL, Dave, I think has always had trouble or been critiqued, I would say fairly, for suspensions that they've handed out.
Yes.
So what the texters brought up, and I've seen other people mention this on social media, Deshaun Watson, I don't know, was it 25, 30 accusers, whatever, civil lawsuits against him. There was far too many. But Calvin Ridley, I think it was $1,000 in parlays that he was betting.
1,500.
Okay, and he gets a full season. So, yes, they're both punishments, but clearly to me, when you're saying someone's suspended for a year, and to me, the league is saying, oh, well, it's far worse to bet on our sport than it is to have these allegations and lawsuits. And you go, is it? And when you have FanDuel and DraftKings and betting the only reason the scroll is really down at the bottom is, you want to know the score, but why are they giving you stats and distance of touch? I mean, the whole league is just backed by gambling. And so it's a really weird contradiction there. And, I don't want to be the one in charge of that either, handing down these suspensions, but 6 games, interesting. And then the whole season for Ridley, I see, is a lot of people's point of contention this morning.
Yeah, I think so. And I think one thing that strikes me is if Deshaun Watson and his camp do, as Diana Rossini said, believe this is too much and that he didn't do anything wrong, then here's my problem. Why would you not fight this?
Yeah.
Why would if you didn't do anything wrong, you've got to appeal it. If you did nothing wrong, you're just going to, to me, that's the first thing. Well, the first thing, that's the biggest thing that stands out to me is garbage about this. Unless, of course, there would end up being an appeal, but there won't. Again, according to that source, they accept it was a fair process with a neutral party hearing the case and making the decision. You're talking about 66 women in 17 months. NDAs were signed in some cases, didn't use team massage people, on and on. Now, Jay, my question for you is this. Trevor Bauer was suspended For 324 games, the equivalent of 2 full seasons, and by far the most severe punishment handed out under baseball's domestic violence policy. Now, here's the thing, and again, please, everybody understand, we're not judging, we're not in favor of one thing, or we're just reading the story and talking. Again, this is an important thing, and I want to get that clear. But Bauer was accused of sexual assault by a San Diego woman who requested a restraining order. An LA judge denied the woman a permanent restraining order. The LA County District Attorney's Office investigated. They declined to file criminal charges. But baseball has autonomy to suspend players without a criminal conviction. Trevor Bauer, you talk about not doing anything wrong. Who knows? I don't know. You don't know. But Trevor Bauer was never convicted of a single thing. And to our knowledge, settled with nobody, paid nobody off. And he was suspended 324 games. Deshaun Watson allegedly assaulted or had inappropriate experiences with over 60 women, most of which he has paid off, and the NFL suspends him 6 games.
Well, it goes to show just the the joke that the NFL is when it comes to this stuff. And, you know, Jason kind of highlighted the Calvin Ridley thing. And I think that's a fair comparison that people are making, that you have all these partnerships with gambling company. You have a wide receiver put $1,500 down, not $150,000,
sure,
not $15,000, $1,500.
And wasn't it on other teams too?
Yes.
Well,
yeah, which is important. And again, so people don't go after your point. I think whether it was $5 or $5,000, gambling is gambling, and I understand there's levels, and it wasn't on him, it wasn't on his team, but to your point, it was gambling, by the way, in a sport that takes hundreds of millions of dollars from casinos and from gambling outfits.
And then, so going back to Bauer, obviously, like you said, we don't know the full details, but I will say this much: while the MLB has the autonomy to suspend however long they want, even without a conviction, if you're suspending a guy for essentially 2 seasons, there's something there. Now, Bauer has appealed. I don't know what they will end up settling on. And again, that will tell us a lot about what is there,
right?
What, you know, likely that stuff doesn't come out. But again, the suspension will be what it is. But your point is so, but with the Bauer thing, clearly, whatever it was, MLB took very seriously to suspend a guy for 2 years. You take that very seriously. So again, I don't know what will happen with the appeal, but MLB got it right in that sense. Maybe it's too harsh. I don't know, because like you said, we don't know the evidence. We just know they took the matter seriously. The NFL, and for Watson's camp and him to come out and say, hey, we don't think we did anything wrong, but the process is fair and we're not appealing. You got 6 games, then you did something. Because if the process was fair and you're not appealing and you got 0 games, then you didn't do anything wrong. But you did something wrong because there is a suspension there of 6 games. There is wrongdoing there somewhere.
Let me ask you both this question. Jason, you first. Which is more do you think egregious? The amount of games Trevor Bauer was suspended, having been convicted of absolutely nothing, or the little amount of games, a few amount of games that Deshaun Watson was suspended? And by the way, we're also very aware that 6 games out of a 17-game season, 162 games in baseball, there's obviously a mathematical difference. But which one do you think is more egregious, Jason?
I feel like the Bauer.
Yeah.
I feel like, but I mean, again, we're measuring. I that's a really difficult one, but I would say Bauer is where I'm leaning.
Jay?
I think the Ridley is more egregious.
Well, yeah. And you're a Dodger fan, and imagine Trevor Bauer on that staff. It's absolutely ridiculous.
He's a Cy Young winner.
He's a Cy Young winner. But at the same time, like, this is such also the toughest part about this too is, like, I absolutely, like, I have, in the whole, like, quote unquote keeping it real thing, if you have to take emotion out, and first off, he's a Dodger. Secondly, he seems like an absolute ding dong, and ding dong is like, what I mean is personality wise, and then beyond that, he may very well, very likely be a sexual, somewhere between deviant and predator. I don't know where that falls. It's not like I'm sitting here feeling bad for. Trust me when I say I have 0 sympathy for Trevor Bauer. But right is right, wrong is wrong, fair is fair, consistency is consistency. You're certainly not going to get consistency between sports. No. The problem is, to your point, the NFL can't even get consistency within its own sport.
Correct. Yeah, and then the other offshoot of that, I mean, now if you go to the, for lack of a better term, the sports part of it, Dave, like the Jimmy G angle, like, okay, hey, the Browns might need this guy as a QB because Deshaun Watson could miss a year. Well, now it sounds like 6 games, and, you know, if they could kind of just hang in there, the guy they're paying minimally now and traded the world for to be their quarterback for what they hope to be the next decade because they haven't had that position solved, you know, maybe the Browns are going to be on the other side of this before long.
There's one other story out there too that's far less serious than this, but I don't want it to get lost. I don't know if you guys saw this over the weekend, but Tim Anderson, who's an exciting player with the Chicago White Sox, and I personally think one of the types of players that baseball needs very, very badly right now. Players with personality, players that have fun out there, players that are fiery. He was suspended 3 games and fined an undisclosed amount of money for making helmet contact with a plate umpire. And that was in Friday night's game against the A's. Anderson's appealing it. He made him eligible for the 3-2 win over the A's. There will be a hearing. And I think these suspensions are actually with pay, if I remember correctly. And I find myself wondering, listen, I saw it. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. It's not like he went up. People say he headbutted.
Right.
He didn't headbutt him, but he aggressively rushed the umpire. And you could see the contact with the helmet on the hat. Nobody was hurt. It wasn't dangerous. You made contact with an umpire. He's got to be gone like 20 games. I did not understand the suspension at all. It really stuck out to me, and maybe I'm overreacting, but it's like, dude, you make contact with an umpire in an aggressive way or a referee or anything, there's got to be a no tolerance for that, man.
Well, and that's the thing on all these sports. Like, almost like if you just, the one thing, I think you could pick it apart, but in the NBA, literally, like, you leave the bench in a fight, you get a game. And I always thought the weird part about that is, like, I could throw a punch at you in a game and I might get a game, maybe 2, but I left the bench and I get a game. But those are the parameters that are set. It's almost no question. So if you can kind of almost get some criteria, it's like, hey, in the past you bumped an umpire, it's X amount of games. He did that. It just fits that criteria. If it goes above that, then you go more games. It just, I don't know. I think these suspensions kind of go each and every way, and you kind of trying to figure out what's going on with these sports.
It's so goofy, dude. If I'm the umpires union, I don't have any. Listen, we're not sitting here sticking up for refs and umpires necessarily, but at some point, especially when you have so few coming into youth sports, like, it's a very important time right now to protect our officials to a point. Tim Reynolds, he didn't assault the umpire. Let's not get carried away, but it's just that line of demarcation you should not cross. I'm very curious to see if the umpires union has anything to say about this. Jerry Reynolds will join us at 8 o'clock. That's in just under 50 minutes to talk about Bill Russell's passing and his experiences with Bill. He had many, many. We'll also probably ask Jerry a couple things about the Kings as well. Next up, 3 for Madness. We'll talk about Bill Russell a little bit. The Dodgers Giants this week, and football. We're back in exactly 60 seconds.
The start of the NFL season is upon. Questions, 3 answers. It's 3 for Madness on the Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross. Question 1.
All right, coming up next, Deebo Samuel is a rich man. The 49ers still have more things to do, obviously, in this preseason as we get ready for sort of actual football. Jerry Reynolds will join us at 8 o'clock. Much to come still in the second half of this program. In the meantime, it's Jay Mars. It's Reefer Madness.
Gentlemen, do your best to give a baseball and football comparison to the great Bill Russell.
Okay, with the caveat that there's no comparison to Bill Russell. If we're trying to do our best here, I would, dude, I don't think I'm going too crazy here. I would say Babe Ruth with a dash of Jackie Robinson in baseball. Which, by the way, you're literally talking about two of the biggest icons in the sport. And I'm like, oh, I'd combine the two. Babe for obviously the numbers reason and the generation, Jackie for everything he had to go through. In football, guys, Jason, I don't know. I keep blanking on football, and I know it's not. None of them are going to be exact, but God, what would be like Bart Starr? No,
I would say Jim Brown.
I was going to say Jim Brown.
Okay,
but not the winner. But Jim
Yeah.
Brown, what he had to go through, and I would say Jackie Robinson, what he had to go through. But then if you're trying to get like the actual credentials of what Bill Russell did, just if we strip him down to the basketball player,
right?
Man, now you're going to like who would.
Right.
Who won Brady's a great winner.
Sure.
Now he hasn't been through anything remotely. I'm just doing the football player versus basketball player.
For baseball, I was going to go Hank Aaron. I thought Hank Aaron was
a good call.
Okay, that's a really good one. Dude, I know it sucks because Tom Brady is modern, but maybe is the closest you get a pseudo combination of Brady and Jim Brown for football almost. And then, whether it's Ruth and Jackie, Hank Aaron. I mean, it's so funny the names we're mentioning, and it's multiple times now we've taken two all-time icons and tried to combine them to compare to Russell. And then it's like in golf, it's like, I mean, not the off-field stuff, but just even you're talking about like Ben Hogan, Arnold Palmer type. Like we do not have
Muhammad Ali.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
He fits. He is right in there in that conversation of all-time great transcendent athletes and
crossing over icon.
100%. Now listen, and again, I hope it's not for 50 years, but for some reason I started thinking about like you just compare legacies and just to stack these immortals up. And it's like when Kareem passes, I think we're going to have a lot of the similar conversations. But I also think and we may not even be around, but someday Michael Jordan's going to pass.
Yeah.
And it's going to be almost like a different conversation, I think. Like accomplishment-wise and all that will be very, very similar. But just Michael's off-court experiences were less of far less of the horrors that Bill Russell had to go to. But then Michael was also an icon when it came to crossing over and average, and all that too. There's just not much of a comparison to Bill.
Michael will get besides the basketball legacy, will get, the weird baseball trip. He'll get the obviously Air Jordan and the shoe and the branding commercialism. But completely different than these other guys.
Well, Michael Jordan is almost Bill Russell's not necessarily a brand, whereas Michael Jordan is a commercial brand.
Yes, he is.
No, that's a great way to put it. Number 2.
Question 2.
Starting this week, we will have football every week until the Super Bowl on February 12th. Simple question. Can you get enough football?
Can I get enough NFL football? No. I mean, because I don't care about, the XFL or whatever it is. But
you don't?
No, dude, I don't.
Wow.
But I do care about college football. Not as much as I used to because my team's terrible right now, but I still care. I still enjoy waking up Saturday mornings, having college football, knowing the NFL is the next day. I enjoy the thing about NFL football is that it just, guys, this. You wake up, and this is one of my favorite things to do. You get whatever meat you're going to eat that afternoon off the barbecue ready. It's a crisp day. Maybe it's cloudy, maybe it's cold, but my favorite are those clear, chilly, crisp type of fall days. You spend all day watching football with the smells through the air. You eat a heavy, unhealthy breakfast. You make a giant hoagie with everything on it for lunch, and then
Wow.
You watch
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot of calories on this Sunday.
That's the thing. It's
And then you walk it all off after Sunday Night Football, right?
Exactly. You go from the morning game to the afternoon game to and our boss Nick Cattles. He has not experienced this yet. He has not experienced the right way to watch football, which is starting at 10 a.m. and going into Sunday Night Football.
Good point.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of the whole thing, you put a block of cream cheese on a plate and heat up some chili and pour it on top and dip Triscuits in it. I'm so excited for the food and
stomach
football.
Hurts.
Oh my God, Jay! If you ate that, you would
die.
We would not be here, Dave, on Mondays.
Have you ever blown up a balloon and then just let it go while it flies around the room? And makes
There's
that
me.
noise? That would be Jay. But I'm excited, guys.
Yeah, I mean, can you get enough? I mean, I love football, but here's the few opportunities where I'd say preseason. Like the Raiders and Jags are Thursday.
Which you can catch on Sactown Sports 1140
right.
following the A's game.
I'll be excited for it, and then there'll be like second quarter. I'm like, okay, I'm not as interested. So
you'll make it that far to the
maybe
second.
not.
You go to the second quarter?
Maybe not. Preseason football. Certainly, Dave, like you said, spring for XFL, all those. Yeah, don't even care about that Pro Bowl, and then some of those random college bowl games. But besides all that, yeah, I'll watch if it was Jags Raiders Thursday regular season. Oh yeah, or Jags Lions. I'm all in.
All in.
But preseason,
Oh, by the way, fantasy football.
Oh yes.
And once a year I try to sneak up to Tahoe or whatever. And this is always a blast of a Sunday. Anytime if you ever have a free Sunday and you have a chance and you feel like it, go watch a day's worth of football games in a sports book. Bring $20 or whatever you want to bring and put $5 on a couple of different games and just sit back in the book and eat their cheap food. Watch the games. It is an absolute blast. If you've never watched a day of football in a sports book and you've watched degenerates worry about 3.5 point spreads, it's fantastic. Number 3.
Question 3.
The Dodgers and Giants being a 3-game set tonight in San Francisco. How much is taken off this rivalry with the Giants being 500 and 17.5 back of the Dodgers?
Wow. 17. Hey, Dave, they're going to retire Will Clark again tonight.
I would be here for that. Just have a whole week. I'd like an Olympics of Will Clarking.
22 days of retiring Will Clark's jersey.
Yes, 100%. 22 days of Will Clark, like the 12 days of Christmas. Okay. It's the Dodgers. So it doesn't matter in one aspect.
Hey, a sweep, you're 14.5 back.
I just want to beat the Dodgers and make them cry little blue stupid tears.
They cry if you sweep them. Come on, they'll be 14.5 ahead.
But also when there's no, you're 17.5 back, and honestly, you're probably going to be more than that back at the end of the year. You're 500. I'll watch because it's the Dodgers. Like, this is where we're getting very close to where I start to care a little about baseball. So I'll watch because it's a rivalry game. But other than that, man.
Yeah, I think it's similar to me to, Kings and Lakers had its greatest time. Sure. It's not that anymore, but
it's
been
a while.
Yeah, but they play 4 times. And if it's 2 games at Golden One, yeah, that game's a little bit more to it. But in the end, if the Kings beat them, you're happy for the night. The Giants beat the Dodgers, you'll be happy tonight. But big picture, it's not going to do much of a dent. Giants are just floundering, and they're not awful. They're not great. They're just, that's what they are. They're 500.
Over the weekend, I think it was John Morosi. If not, I apologize for not getting the whoever tweeted it correctly. But it sounds like they're actually for the first time listening on their veterans.
Which they should be.
This is going to be a very interesting trade deadline.
Which is tomorrow, right?
Yes. I cannot wait until Shohei Ohtani is a Giant. I'm really excited for this.
Keep waiting.
We'll take a break. When we come back, one guy not going anywhere, at least anytime soon, Deebo Samuel. He gets paid. Will that make him happy? Are we good? We'll check in on some other Ninery stuff as well. Get you an NFL update. I do want to mention real quick, by the way, that Hall of Fame game. We'll get into all that after this.
Check out the Golf to Go Hour with Frank LaRosa every week on Sactown Sports 1140. Get the latest on equipment, area courses, people that play the great game, and plenty of good conversations about golf. It's the Golf to Go Hour with Frank LaRosa. Friday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturday morning from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Sactown Sports 1140. Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop, America's most awarded golf facility, and Naturewood Home Furnishings. Loans, where it's all about choices and always about quality. And Safe Credit Union. Let us put you first.
Today's poll question, just put out on Twitter a minute ago. Should Deshaun Watson have been suspended? I snickered because obviously that's a serious topic. I said, should Deshaun Watson have been suspended? Either more games, less games, or they got it right. The reason I snickered is because just 19 votes in, which is far, we're far away from a final tally, but still 19 votes. Pretty concise. 100% say more.
Wow. 19-0? It's a 19-0 run?
I don't know that I've ever seen a 19-0 run in all my years of doing Twitter polls. That is pretty, pretty convincing. Before we get to Deebo Samuel here, because Andrew on the YouTube chatter, she says Deebo. You gotta love that's got to be voice to text. Deebo Samuel signed a contract. Guys, could this all be settled to a point by having all three major sports just employ third-party disciplinary committees?
That probably would be best.
Kennesaw Mountain Landis was hired as the first commissioner of Major League Baseball. He was a judge. This was in a response to the Black Sox scandal. He was hired by the owners, but also part of the deal was he had complete autonomy. He was independent. He did not answer to anybody, and that's changed a little bit over the years, it seems. But I think it would be extremely smart and fair. For example, if the NFL said, you know what, we're going to have a rotating, 5-year term, whatever it is, panel of 5, and we're going to put a judge on there. We're going to put an ex-coach. I don't know. We're going to put an ex-player. We'll put, I don't know why Condoleezza Rice always pops up with these types of jobs with the NFL. We'll put Condoleezza Rice in there, whatever. You come up with a panel of 5, and they're completely independent of owners and teams, much like they say, the doctors should be that check concussions, and they're the ones that lay out the suspensions. And, maybe there's an appeal process, maybe there's no appeal process, but it just feels like having, and in this case, that's what they did with Watson is my point. But having internal executives in charge of these things seems a little hinky to me, Jason.
Yeah, and maybe, taking it away from that sport, it leaves maybe some of the pressure, like some of the stuff we're saying, oh, football got it wrong again, or baseball got it wrong again.
Yeah.
Now it's on the shoulders of this other independent committee, and if that's what they do, if that's what hopefully they do best, and you would hope without bias, that's always hard to do.
Right.
That might be best, though.
We'll keep you updated on that poll. I have a feeling most people are going to think Deshaun Watson wasn't suspended enough. What's tough for him, though, is that in the midst of that, whatever it was, over $250 million in contract money, he only makes $1 million this year. So tough financial break for Deshaun Watson. Another guy who's not making as much money as Deshaun Watson, but certainly is not going to have to worry about a car payment anytime soon. Deebo Samuel, 3-year contract extension with the Niners. Max value on this one, $73.5 million over those 3, includes $58.1 million in guarantees. I like where you're seeing, especially on the top end, and it needs to work down more. So many more, such a higher percentage of these NFL contracts are guaranteed. The 7th wideout this offseason to sign a deal worth at least $24 million per year. We mentioned this earlier. DeAndre Hopkins was the only one making $24 million a year before this offseason. And Jason, you said it earlier. This went from the Niners starting the offseason with Deebo Samuel wants a trade to now everyone's happy. And I just really am curious if there's going to be any on-field changes for him.
Yeah, because I'm looking at last year's number, and like you said earlier, Dave, too, like we heard, and I believe there's some validity to this, that maybe he wasn't fully in love with being that running back role, even though he's a receiver, but used quite a bit. I mean, he ended up with almost 60 carries on the ground last year, but he was so productive, 365 yards, 8 touchdowns. So, I mean, when he had the ball, he was great on the ground, and then he also had his 77 catches for over 1,400 yards, and was best in the league in yards per reception. It was just such a good weapon, and I think now with Trey Lance, he's going to be as important, if not more. But I don't know if they can find the balance of, I don't think he wants to get hit that many times that a running back does, but also acknowledged how great of a weapon he is. I go back to the game against the Packers in the playoffs, the snowy game, where things started to change in that second half, and one of the moves Kyle Shanahan made was to have Deebo return kicks, and he's done that before, but it's like, sometimes you protect him there. It's like, you know what, we need a play. So they had him return, and he had a kick return that, if I remember right, was 30 or 40 yard return, start at midfield. It just kind of changes the complexion. When you've got a player that's that dangerous, I think if you could find the happy medium where you utilize him as much as you possibly can without wearing him out, that's what you try to do.
100%. The Niners need this, Jason, because it has been a borderline disastrous preseason so far, a very early preseason for the Niners. Maurice Hurst, defensive tackle, torn biceps on Friday. He will most likely, according to Kyle Shanahan, miss the entire 2022 season. And that's on the heels of Eric Armstead missing a few weeks, they say, with a sprained right knee. Now, sounds like he may, in fact, be back for the start of the season. That's great, but you also now have 17 games to get through, plus hopefully playoffs. You don't know how much that sprained right knee, if at all, is going to hurt a friend of the show, Eric Armstead, our local product. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then Hassan Ridgeway, defensive tackle, a mild quad strain. He's going to miss a couple weeks. Hurst, who's out, had been working with the starting defense because they're kind of trying to ease Javon Kinlaw back after he tore his ACL last season as well. Niners go out and make a couple of signings, but that defense is the heart and soul of that squad. Eric Armstead, one of the leaders there. And, at this pace, you almost just want to put everybody in bubble wrap and have them do cardio for the preseason.
Yeah, I'm also, when we follow a lot of the same people that report on the Niners. I can't wait for there's the time like that Trey Lance is like fully established as the guy, and that we don't have to go. He went 3 of 10 in practice today, or he was 7 of 8 and looked sharp. It's like, okay, he's the quarterback. I mean, and yes, he hasn't played a full season yet, but okay, can we get past that? Like wow, that deep throw was on point, or man, he's a little bit off target here. Just he's the guy. He's the quarterback, and you got to live with the good and the bad.
This is a question that if next time we have Eric on or another player or ex-player, I'm going to ask them. But I want to bring it up. I know this is going to sound crazy, and of course it'll never happen because the NFL. Why do we have NFL preseason at all? I mean, at all, a single game. I'm saying, what about doing away with preseason games in the NFL? It's not baseball and it's not basketball. This is a sport in which pretty much. It's not like the Kings go out and play the Timberwolves, and that odds are somebody's getting hurt and at least is going to miss a game or two. In the NFL, every single game somebody gets hurt. It's just a matter of how many, and it's a matter of how long are they out. And what I would like to know, whether it's from a coach, whether it's from a player or not, does preseason really do what it needs to do to get you ready for game one? Or could that be accomplished, maybe not all the way, but 95+% with drills, with scrimmages, intra-squad scrimmages, things that are you're getting in shape per se. You're going over film, you're running plays and stuff, and then of course there's going to be injuries there too. We hear that every year. No contact wide receiver cut on the field and tore his. You're never going to do away with it. I just wonder if the preseason's worth it when you look at every year multiple players go down.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, Dave, Sac State starts this week. UC Davis starts this week. Florida State, UCLA, our team, like they don't have a preseason.
Nope.
So. And the way college football works, the preseason's non-league. No, it's not. Because, I mean, if Florida State loses to a non-league game to Clemson, or no, that's not non-league, to Oklahoma.
Jacksonville State.
Sure.
Yeah, right.
Whoever it is, that's like, okay, that dings them. That's going to hurt. Or they have that breakthrough win and they beat Alabama in a non-league game. Wow, Florida State's legit.
That's right.
That's game one. That's game two. That's not preseason. Those all count. So, to your point, that same coaching staff has to figure out, wow, it's Dave or Jason or Jay, my starting receiver. Like you have to figure that out in practice. And that's the way you do it. You don't do it through preseason. They figure it out, and they'll have an injury too, by the way, in camp, but hopefully it's nothing that's, too detrimental to the team.
Your point is so valid. And I get college football is not the NFL, but listen, losing a game in college football is far more detrimental than losing a game in the NFL.
Absolutely.
It's not close. And even with the rinky-dink playoffs they have right now in college football, it's nothing like you can open up and lose your first 3 games in the NFL, and you still absolutely have a shot at the playoffs if you turn it around. I'll give you an example. I love your example, so I'll follow up on it. Saturday, August 27th is pretty much opening day in college football. Florida State's at home taking on Duquesne. That's going to be a barn burner. Now, listen, if Duquesne goes in to Florida to Doak Campbell and beats the Seminoles, it's not impossible. But my goodness gracious, it's going to be very improbable. Even if Florida State ran the table, they might sneak in as the 4th team in the playoff, but they no longer control their own destiny. Why can't we take this same logic over to the NFL?
Yeah, and to prevent, because you're right, there will be something of significance in somebody's training camp of a major injury, and likely some of that's going to be in a preseason game.
Well, and by the way, to everybody listening on YouTube, and we appreciate you, please hit the like button, say hello. And everybody listening, whether you're on the app, whether you're listening on the old-fashioned radio, we know why nothing will ever happen to the preseason, because they make way too much money on the preseason, whether it's the broadcast, whether it's the stadiums being the concessions, everything involved. There's way too much money involved. And to that point, Jason, the NFL season, semi-officially kicks off this Thursday with those Vegas Raiders taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a 5:00 game. It's not on ESPN2. It's not on TBS. It's not on NFL Network. It's a 5 o'clock game on Thursday, which, by the way, last I checked, is must-see TV night. I don't know if that still exists, but it's on NBC.
Yeah.
That's big boy stuff. And by the way, as garbage as that game's going to be, as much as folks like you and me who do this for a living are going to get super excited, we're going to pop some popcorn, we're going to sit down in front of the TV, and we're going to watch the first series and go, it's going to end up pulling better ratings than most NBA playoff games.
Yeah, and I still think I'm glad that for me as a fan of the sport, I'm glad the league got to 17 games, but I think the fix is 18 and eliminate the preseason.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. Jerry Reynolds is going to join us at 8 o'clock. That's in just about 20 minutes. Coming up next, let's talk about Bill Russell again, passing away over the weekend. Absolute icon, legend, what he had to endure off the court and what he did so amazingly on the court. We're back right after this.
Sactown Sports 1140 is your home of the Las Vegas Raiders for the 2022 NFL season. Tune your dial to 1140 for all Raiders games. Plus, you can listen online at SactownSports.com and on the Sactown Sports 1140 app.
Before we get to the late and beyond great Bill Russell, just want to dovetail off the conversation we were just having. Carmichael Dave, Jason Ross, Jay Mars back in studio, back to full strength. Thank you all for listening. 1-800-920-1140 is your phone line. 916-339-1140 is your text line. Also, you can watch us on the YouTube as well. Just go to Sactown Sports 1140's YouTube page. Hello to everybody out there. I want to take you back 3 months, and trust me here for a second. I'm making a point. Coverage of the NBA playoffs in general, viewership has averaged 3.6 million viewers over ESPN, ABC, and TNT. This was towards the beginning, which is up 102% from the delayed postseason a couple years back. Now, the Nets Celtics series was the dominant draw of the first round. Game 1, largest opening weekend for an NBA playoff audience in 20 years. Game 2 averaged 3.96 million viewers on TNT. That trailed only the Lakers and Suns last year at 4 million. Generally averaging it out, the NBA playoffs, at least through the first couple rounds, average somewhere in the 2 to 3 million viewer range. I'm bringing that up because last year's Hall of Fame game averaged 7.5 million viewers. 7.31 million viewers for the Steelers and Cowboys Hall of Fame game, which was the largest NFL preseason audience since 2017, but not that far. And the previous one that got Dallas, that was 8.25 million. That was in 2017. So my point is this garbage, meaningless preseason game that's going to feature at most one one drive with first teamers and not all the first teamers, and then it's going to be Benedict Cumberbatch and whoever's trying to make the team, and they're literally doubling the average, if more than doubling, Jason, the average NBA viewership, and God knows baseball in the playoffs.
And you say one series, who is it? It's the Rams, Sean McVay. Like, he didn't play his number ones at all. At all. So it just depends on new coach or coach's theory or position battle sometimes. But yeah, he's not getting those guys at risk at all.
Well, I'm all for those TV numbers carrying over to the radio, because Sactown Sports 1140 will have your full coverage of the Jags and Raiders right here on 1140, and that all kicks off at 5:00. By the way, the Raiders favored by 1.5.
Oh, yeah, big time. I got a lot on that game.
If you already knew that, just listen. There are meetings. You don't even have to say your last name. Just go have a donut and coffee. And
I think you've already been to that meeting if you know that spread.
Exactly. Bill Russell passed away, 88 years old. Former Sacramento Kings coach. I bring that up only because of the local ties, but that is certainly not on the top half page or maybe even the first page or first chapter of a book on his resume. All-time great icon. The first black superstar in the NBA. 11 rings. Just on and on and on. I have some things for you, and Jerry Reynolds is going to join us in 15 minutes, Jason. Bill Russell's greatest rival was Wilt Chamberlain. While the Big Dipper was more accomplished as an individual player, in other words, his statistics, Russell Celtics got the better of Chamberlain in the playoffs all but once, including 2-0 in the NBA Finals. Russell was a 5-time MVP to Wilt's 4. 11-1. 11-1 for Russell. The rivalry there was absolutely insane. He's the only player in NBA history to play in at least 10 game sevens. Let me back up, Jason. When you put together all NCAA games, Olympic medal rounds, best of 5 NBA, best of 7 NBAs, all of it, in winner take all games, Bill Russell was 21-0.
That I saw that. I could not believe that.
That's just comical. 21-0. Never lost in a winner take all. Never lost. The guy was absolutely insane. Andy Bailey put together some stuff too. In just 13 seasons, Bill Russell won 11 championships. He secured 12 All-Star appearances, 11 All-NBA appearances, and 5 MVPs. And as we said earlier, had the Defensive Player of the Year award existed at the time, he probably would have had 10. Defensive win shares, you can go back and you can do that. I won't get into all the analytics of it, but let's just say it shows how good you are at defense. Bill Russell is the leader in career defensive win shares at 133.6. The distance, just so you understand, between him and second place, Tim Duncan, who played, by the way, 19 seasons. And please keep in mind, win shares is a cumulative thing. The longer you play, the more you can accumulate. Tim Duncan played 19 seasons to Bill Russell's 13. Bill had 133.6 defensive win shares. The distance between him and Tim Duncan is about the same as the distance between Duncan and 10th place.
Wow.
At the time he retired, the distance between Russell and second place was the same as the distance between second and 99th place. 25,724 rebounds, ranked second all time, just to Wilt Chamberlain. I could go on and on and on, but Jason, it was what Bill went through off the court as well as what he accomplished on the court that really helped underline what type of man this was.
Yeah, and to be able to battle that daily. Again, Boston at that time, that was rough. It was rough for him, had to be rough. And a lot of times, even then, your teams and the athletes can be the heroes. But, obviously he wasn't viewed that way. Maybe to some, but not to all. And to have to live that, to power through it, to shine, to shed light on certainly things that were wrong in our society that still maintain that are wrong. But I again, paving the way, pioneer. I don't know the right terms, trailblazer, all those things. But I don't know how he did it. I really don't. And to do it with success on the court, sure, but also to be, there was an edge to him and a shield around him. But I think those that he let in seemed like a really likable man, a smart guy, obviously gifted beyond belief.
Yes.
But just he did so many things, and I think what a life well lived.
Stern, guarded, gruff, some would even say. His daughter wrote something here I want to read. This is her writing. Talking about his time in Boston. One night we came home from the 3-day weekend and found we had been robbed. Our house was in shambles, and I won't say the word that she says, but let's just say it starts with N, was spray painted on the walls. The burglars had poured beer on the pool table and ripped up the felt. They had broken into my father's trophy case and smashed most of his trophies. I was petrified and shocked at the mess. Everyone was very upset. The police came, and after a while, they just left. It was then that my parents pulled back their bed covers to discover that the burglars had defecated in their bed. Every time the Celtics went out on the road, vandals would come and tip over our garbage cans. My father went to the police station to complain. The police told him that raccoons were responsible. So he asked where he could apply for a gun permit. The raccoons never came back. The only time we were really scared was after my father wrote an article about racism in professional basketball for the Saturday Evening Post. He earned the nickname Felton X. We received threatening letters, and my parents notified the FBI. What I find most telling about this episode is that years later, after Congress had passed the Freedom of Information Act, my father requested his FBI file and found that he was repeatedly referred to as, quote, an arrogant Negro who won't sign autographs for white children. You read something like that, man. Not that we live in far from a perfect world, Jason, but you read that and realize we're not talking about 1350. We're not talking about 1789. Yeah. We're talking about a few decades ago.
Yeah.
You wonder why Bill Russell maybe appeared to have an edge. Maybe he had something on his mind. Maybe he was a little stern or gruff or whatever dumb word you want to use. It's because he and his family were put through absolute hell as he was playing a basketball game.
Right. Yeah. Earlier before us, Damon and Mandalore show on the DA show's on before us, and he had Dan Shaughnessy, longtime Boston writer, on, and he was sharing an anecdote that was pretty great about Bill. You mentioned in that piece that his daughter wrote that Bill wrote something, to the paper there, and Bill wrote a book himself. Bill wrote a couple things, and Dan said a lot of the Boston reporters, they had that tough interaction with him at times, like they couldn't get to him, that force field that was around him, but they also were incredibly jealous of him. They said he was a better writer than us.
Right.
And it's just like, man, this guy goes ahead and said, I'm going to write this book, and they all go, this is great. I mean, it's just absolutely great writing. And so he was gifted at a lot of things.
He sure was. We mentioned earlier he was a track and field star in college as well, Olympic level track and field star, and just an incredibly diverse. Kareem's the only one that really, off the top of my head, comes to mind is somebody who, when they do pass, we're going to end up talking as much or more about what they did off court as they did on the court. And I think it's important when we celebrate Bill Russell. I do. And I think this is one of those things where it'd be easier not to say it because I'm aware of our audience, and I'm aware that there's a large enough percentage of our audience that isn't going to like what I say. But I do think it's important when we celebrate the life of Bill Russell that we spend at least a decent amount of time talking about the racism he dealt with, talking about what he went through in Boston. It is a smear on the city of Boston. It's a smear on our country, what he went through. And there's far, far, far more anecdotes about other people than Bill Russell has. Bill Russell just happened to be a superstar basketball player, but I think it's important to understand and to learn. Like my children are going to, we were talking about Bill Russell last night, and I read them that story. That's a tough story to read to kids. But you know what's and my daughter and I talked about this a little bit. I can't imagine coming home from the radio show, a road trip for the radio show. And can you imagine in front of your wife and children peeling back your bed covers? Can you imagine seeing whatever? There's no equivalent to the term for you and I, but spray paint. Your kids see that. They see. It's one thing for it to have. If something bad happens to me, I can listen. You handle it. Something bad happens to my children,
right, and impacts them.
And you're supposed to go out and smile and high five and go play a basketball game. So some of the same people that did that, or their friends or their relatives who are season ticket holders, can cheer. And he gritted through. Bill Russell lived his life, I want to say, through gritted teeth sometimes. And I can't imagine.
Can't either. And I know Jerry, I'm looking forward to talking to Jerry next because obviously he connected with him in a different level in his time here in Sacramento and watched him obviously as a player too.
Jerry Reynolds, the great Jerry Reynolds, former GM, former coach, former analyst, Sacramento's basketball grandpa. We love him to death. And there's nobody better to talk about Bill Russell with than Jerry. Coach will join us right after this.
You want more Kings coverage? Sactown Sports 1140's giving it to you.
I like the Monk deal a lot. The Kevin Huerter one, you got control of a guy who, around the league, people still think he's a pretty good player.
Impressions, let's start with the Kings' top pick, Keegan Murray. What do you think of him? And you obviously knew him well at Iowa.
Yeah, I thought he was terrific. I called efficient and versatile. He's going to make shots. He's an elite jump shooter.
Log on to SactownSports.com for exclusive content. SactownSports.com. Sacramento, KYMX HD2, Sacramento. Sactown Sports, 1140. It's the Carmichael Dave Show.
He's on the microphone when he's not on the microphone. He's playing a song, and when he's not playing a song, he's on the microphone, and then boom.
With Jason Ross.
Jay, hey, my headset's
Text or call the show at 916-339-1140. It's the Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross on Sactown Sports, 1140.
Welcome back. Jason Ross, Jay Mars, Carmichael Dave, all the way until 9 a.m. Jim Rome will take over from there. Cattles and Rami noon. Jerry Reynolds on the way. Jay is efforting him. I want to throw this out there. Jason, you know, all the talk about the LIV Tour and golfers, and we've heard a lot about their finances and this and that over the years, or over the last few months especially, I should say. Less than 24 hours ago, just to give you kind of the other side of golf, Chris Nagel was finishing his final round in Detroit after Monday qualifying, and he made the cut at the Rocket Classic. Today, he's 590 miles away in North Carolina, looking to successfully qualify for the 5th time in 6 weeks at the Wyndham Championship. 5 qualifiers in 6 weeks. That is a grind.
That is the true definition of a battle right there.
Our next guest, if they could bottle up in a prescription a pill for having a bad day or being in a bad mood, he would 100% be inside of that bottle. Now, unfortunately, today we're talking about a something that's sad, but my guess is, and I don't want to speak for him, our good friend, Coach Jerry Reynolds, is going to make us smile more than the other way around as we celebrate the life of beyond an icon, Bill Russell. Coach, it's Dave, it's Jason, it's Jay. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Good morning, my friend.
Well, good morning, and I'm glad to join you on this day, and really, as you said, celebrating the life of, just truly an icon, not just in sports, but social activist in life. And I was just really blessed to get to know and really develop a friendship with Bill for several years. So, really special guy, and no question will be missed. But boy, he had a talk about a full life and well-lived life. Very few get accomplished what he did.
Well, Jerry, if we kind of start there, because Dave and I were talking about the stuff we read. I never had a chance to know him, and I think there was a little bit of a guard around him, understandably, based on how he had to go through his life. But you had that opportunity. How would you describe the Bill Russell that you knew?
First of all, I mean, he was an eccentric person. He'd be the first to admit that.
Right.
Was not easy to get to know because he probably wanted to be, till he trusted you, you weren't going to get inside that circle. And I certainly have been around a few, icon types that basically pretty much all the same. They have to. They have to protect themselves. There's a lot of dingbats out there, for sure, and some bad people too. But Bill, once you got in there, and I mean, the way I'd put it is that, and a lot of people probably never thought of this, but once you were kind of in his circle and he felt comfortable with you, he was just a delightful person. Just a guy that every day. That's the way I look at it. We'd get together and spend time, and I just loved listening to his stories and about his Celtic days, his life, and some of his difficult times. He was great about sharing that, and certainly asking. And he's very, very, concerned always about my life and what he could do, those type things, what he could do to help, and, basketball and life. I mean, so just a really genuine, special guy. And we were awfully close for those years. And obviously as years go on, you kind of drift away and you go different directions. But boy, as I've aged, and boy, have I, you look back, on those times and really the good times, which about all of them were. I mean, the basketball wasn't good, but the times with Bill were very good.
Coach Jerry Reynolds with us. You know, a lot of the stuff we know about Bill from reading, from seeing the old videos, and we were just talking before you came on about all the things that, you know, when people would say Bill was guarded or gruff or stern, you know, we talked about just a couple of the horrors he and his family went through off the court, where you could certainly understand why the man might have a few things on his mind. That being said, folks like you that were blessed enough to get in that circle, I have heard anecdotes that the one thing that about Bill that some people may not realize is the sense of humor and the laugh. That was very memorable.
Oh yeah, I always said that was probably the main thing I had to develop in my Bill Russell experience was the become cackle proof. Because he had a cackle that would split your eardrums, you know, and I mean, and boy, he would, you know, if something was funny, I mean, he enjoyed it. Let's put it that way. And so, yeah, I was going to say, I got so, you know, it was, I always remember just kind of being in his office, and we'd, you know, be there, and then Willis Reed or different people at that time, and just Bill and his cackle. It was special, you know, and I mean, it'd be one of those things too, where Bill liked to be was a very private person, but we'd be in a restaurant or something, and you know how I am, I might say something that might be a little humorous, and he'd just let out a big cackle in case there was a human that didn't know Bill was in there. They, you know, they knew from several levels that there was Bill Russell was in the building.
Jerry, I'm thinking back to, what is it, 87. So basketball in Sacramento is still very new. Bird and Magic are in their prime. Jordan's just getting started. There's not a bigger name than Bill Russell. And forget the results of him as a coach here, but the announcement or hearing that Bill Russell is coming to be a part of the Sacramento Kings. I wasn't here then. I can't imagine that had to be blockbuster news the way that was received at the time.
Oh, it was. Yeah. You know, certainly on a national basis. And you know, it was one of those things to where obviously the Sacramento Kings, much like they are today, kind of forgotten nationally, but all of a sudden we're front page news everywhere, sports wise, for a long time. And, you know, and Bill, even though he really was very guarded with the media, but he'd always come up with some great quotes because he was Bill Russell. And, you know, like I say, it was, then I think too, the fact, you know, that he immediately, you know, fortunately for me, I was hired as an assistant along with Willis Reed, an all-time great. And that, which we always said, yeah, what about this picture doesn't fit? Willis Reed, Bill Russell, and Jerry Reynolds. they had, I always remember a T-shirt was made. He said the 3 R's, Reynolds or Russell, Reed, and Reynolds. And I said, yeah, well, there's one R pretty small, and those other two big R's.
when you one of the things we talked about too, Coach, as Coach Jerry Reynolds joins us, was how fun it is to see superstars in awe. It's so fun to see these giants of the game, whether it was Kobe or Kevin Garnett or heck, you know, the fact that Bill Russell could humble Michael Jordan had to be a special thing to watch too, as everybody just became a kid when this man stepped in the room.
Yeah, he really did. He had a special presence, and and there's maybe a half dozen players probably in history that you could say that about, that were just put on a different level, and certainly Bill was, and certainly should have been, and I think the players that came after realize what a leader he was in the sport, and not just as a player but as a person, and so there, to say he's unique could be really be underrating him, because he was just put on that level. And I've said before, it was kind of neat at that time because the team wasn't any good, truthfully. I mean, Pat Riley wouldn't have won any games much with the team, or Greg Popovich or Steve Kerr or Phil Jackson. I mean, he just wasn't going to win. The NBA is about talent on your roster, and I think most people understand that. Coaching's important, but down the list compared to talent. But every city we'd go to, because it was Bill, all of a sudden Sacramento Kings were kind of a big deal for a while. It's almost to the level of back in the 2000s when the Kings were actually really good. It was kind of a big deal everywhere in America. But, Bill created that atmosphere, not that he wanted to, but he just did.
Jerry, the tail end of his playing career, he was also a coach, and we've heard of that. We've seen it. I mean, what do you remember about him being a player coach? He won a couple of titles. How did that look? How did he do as the guy, the best player on the team, but also coaching the team?
Well, I always say, and really had a lot of conversations with Bill about that. And he was, very, very humble and honest about it. He said, basically, Red Auerbach told him, he said he knew that, that the only person that, once Red decided he was going to retire, that there's only one person that could coach Bill, and that would be Bill. And Bill said, yeah, I think Red was 100% right on that. And he said, one thing that helped me, he said, I figured out early on that I needed to focus more on playing once the game started. And he said that Larry Siegfried was kind of a reserve player, very good player out of Ohio State, played with the Havlicek Lucas teams. And he said Larry pretty much would coach the team. We'd talk about it beforehand, because he didn't play a lot. And so Larry did really most of the game type substitutions and different things. And then he laughed one time. He said, we had some injuries and Larry had to play a lot. He said, man, Larry, he said, Siegfried came to me and said, Bill, I can't do this much more. It's killing me. You're wearing me out both ways. But, I thought, that was a real strength of Bill's. He was able to, he had no problem delegating things to people he trusted.
Last thing for you, Coach. I don't know, maybe whether he's gotten settled in or not. Maybe he had a bite to eat, but I would imagine right around now, Coach, Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain are they're on the floor somewhere up there. They're playing a little one-on-one. They're going back and forth. I would imagine if you had to lay money on one of those guys, that'd be a tough bet to make. But you certainly, when you look back through history and you look at the rivalry between those two, it just kind of makes you smile, and you kind of hope that maybe they're going at it again here real soon.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were great friends and tremendous competitors, and no question, icons that, set the league, up for years to come, and, really did allow the Birds and the Magics and later the George and LeBrons and Kobe's, all of them to benefit from, where they set the league. And, two of the greatest, and certainly with Bill, no doubt the greatest winner. He'd be the first to tell you I wasn't the best individual, but said I was a winner. And I always remember a quote he gave me, bless his soul. He said, I asked him about, how many really great players do you think there are? And he said, well, he said, I'll tell you one thing. He said, I'm one of them. And said, Lord doesn't make about 4 or 5 at the most a year. Wow. And I think that is so true. Maybe not that many, maybe not that many, but he was sure one of them.
Now, if there's ever a bright side to losing somebody as iconic and special as Bill Russell, as we said earlier, it's being able to talk to people like you and to be able to turn on our TV later today and see, my children and the next generation, the youngsters, hearing these anecdotes, hearing these stories, and really the tidal wave of celebrations and stories we're going to get about Bill Russell. And I know it's not easy for you. We super appreciate your time, Coach. And it's always fun to talk to you, but when it's something like this, it's even more amazing. So really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you having me on and getting a chance to talk about just a wonderful, wonderful man that I really miss already.
Looking forward to talking to you to start the season, Coach. Thank you so much.
See you guys.
See you. That's Coach Jerry Reynolds. Of course, we ran a little bit late. How can you not with Jerry? I agree with you guys in the YouTube chat. Jerry's voice just draws you in. And yeah, he should write another book, and he should just read the audio, because I could listen to Jerry Reynolds read the Yellow Pages, and I'd probably laugh the whole time too. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about some of the things Jerry said, and then also a little bit of Kings as well. Matthew Dellavedova, brand new signing there. A couple more anecdotes to go as well as we finish the last 3/4 of this hour of the program right here on Sactown Sports 1140.
Breaking news, the latest happenings with your favorite teams.
Yeah.
Got a take? Make sure it's a hot one.
Take a shot right now.
Call or text at 916-339-1140.
The Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross on Sactown Sports 1140.
Was it tough to play every night? Did you often take the floor knowing you were going to lose, that the Sacramento Kings were going to lose that night?
No, you have a delusion that you're going to win games. But
in fact, you were 24 and 58.
Yeah, you have a delusion, but, Bill Russell at the time was our coach, and we had an interesting concept with me as a rookie. He said to me on the bus, he said, "You're going to have to sit next to me on the bus the whole time." And I was like, I didn't want to do that. I'm like, I don't want to sit next to the coach the bus and the plane rides and everywhere. I started walking to the back, and he grabs me back. He said, "Young fella, you got to sit next to me." I'm like, why do I have to sit? Because he's a loser. He's a loser, and they're never going to win.
Kenny Smith, fresh out of North Carolina, comes to Sacramento, and Bill Russell. I don't even know how you say no to anything Bill Russell asks, especially as a rookie riding on the team bus. But Bill's tenure in Sacramento as a coach was not great. But as Jerry Reynolds said, put Red Auerbach or Phil Jackson in there, right, they're going to have the same results. But just the effect, if nothing else, that roster had on just being able to be around this man is something they'll obviously never forget.
Well, and that's something I'd never asked Jerry. That's why I wanted to ask that to him. And Dave, you were here then. I wasn't quite here to Sacramento yet. And I just think, again, if you think about the landscape of the NBA, we think of Bird and Jordan, Magic and Kareem and Russell, Chamberlain, that whole group. But those guys were playing still. Bird, Jordan, Magic. We're still playing. It's 87. The Kings had just got here, and Bill Russell is coming. I just couldn't even imagine the buzz there. I mean, I still think we talk about, legends of the game, kind of, Vince Carter, when he was announced coming to the Kings, just like, that's a big name. That's a big announcement. He's at the end of his career, and there was nothing wrong with Vince Carter, but he didn't play the bulk of his career here. But to get a name like Bill Russell coming to the Sacramento Kings when they just arrived here the year prior, 2 years prior, that had to just be massive news.
It was insane, because you gotta remember, even if you hadn't been here, that Sacramento's thing is, notice us. Hey, look, we're here and we're cool, and we want you to see that we're cool. And if you don't, that's your problem. But to be able to have icons roll through here and be exposed to us, the culture, the landscape, the team, all of that stuff. And it doesn't get any bigger than Bill Russell. So when Bill came aboard, I remembered, again, I was obviously very young, but I very specifically remember, and I had forgotten about this. It was a 7-year contract.
Really?
It was a 7-year contract to serve as head coach of the Kings.
Didn't quite make that. Didn't quite make it.
No, did not last long. They parted ways after 58 games out of that 7-year deal and a 17-41 record, followed by a short stint as the franchise's GM. And I don't know this for a fact, but this is what I would imagine. Let's just be honest. It's not like Bill didn't have money, but players back then did not make anything like they make now, and he was probably hammering along on residuals from books and different things. But in today's NBA, or at least in the late 80s, there was some decent coin you could make. And the fact that it was a 7-year contract, I could just, and I don't know this again, but I could just imagine that they contacted Bill and he was like, nah, I'm good. Well, we'll give you a 7-year guarantee. Well, okay, okay, I'll come out there. And he came out and did his thing. When that didn't work out, they tried the GM thing. But even though it was limited, Jason, I mean, just anecdotes. Reggie Theus, the mustache, everybody remembers Reggie. He said even though Bill was barely there, that long, quote, it was always just sort of surreal in some ways because I grew up watching Bill play, being a student of the game. I go back to watching him on NBA action when I was in junior high school. It was just a joy to be around. It was an absolute honor to be coached by him. It was his third stop in his coaching career.
Yep.
He, as you mentioned in the interview, was a player coach, and they won back-to-back championships. The Celtics did 68 and 69. And he was on the sidelines for the Supersonics for about 5 years, and then finished up with the Kings. So definitely was on the sideline. Definitely, definitely affected quite a few NBA players.
Yeah, I guess there's about a 10-year gap from that Sonics run to the Kings. So interesting little time in his life where he was not as a coach, but got back in kind of here with the Kings. And if he was here barely a year total, well, a little bit more with the GM role, you can still tell the impact he had on someone like Jerry, and I'm sure others as well.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you talk about a guy, we were talking about athletes, but even Jerry, it's like Jerry is an icon here, and he is arguably the most iconic face of the franchise, along with Gary Gerald. I'm sure we can argue about the other one or two, but and Jerry was humbled in his presence. Jerry was a little kid, around Bill, but also it sounds like Jerry had the opportunity because they were, he's younger than Bill, but they were of a similar generation, that Jerry had the opportunity to really, as he said, get inside that shell and get to know the man. You can't replicate that. What a special experience on its own for Jerry.
Yeah, and you could tell it meant a lot to him and his time with him, and it should, right? When you're talking about all the different stuff that not only he went through, and I think in life you learn from everybody in a positive and a negative way, and the amount of knowledge that Bill Russell not only had, obviously, as a player, but successful as a coach, and just as a person, man, that'd have been one of those you just really got to do your best to listen when you're around him.
1,000%. Bill Russell will be missed, and again, I'll keep saying it. I'm very much looking forward to the celebrations,
yes,
the education that so many, including ourselves, will get on the life of Bill Russell. A life well lived, to say the least. And this is a different thing than a Kobe Bryant, for example. And I'm not comparing the players. Kobe gone far too soon. Yeah. Tragic as all get out. Bill, I'm not sad. I'm sad he's gone 88 years, Jason. Yeah. And he lived he tried to live his best life, and his accomplishments will never be matched.
Yeah, and even some of the things, the reports yesterday, I think near the end here, the last year or two, like I don't know that he was doing as well health-wise. Not that you're saying, hey,
sure,
it's good that it's over. That's not what I'm saying. But, you want everybody to be living their best life as long as they possibly can. And certainly he had one of those lives that will be talked about for a long, long time.
We will take a break. When we come back, a new signing for the Sacramento Kings. What impact, if any, will he have? And also some perspective on the Deshaun Watson suspension. Got some numbers for you here. And then if we have time, with Will Clark's jersey being retired, and that's the jersey I'm wearing here today. Who was your Will Clark growing up? We'll get to that in just a second. In the meantime, hey, listen, a weird day yesterday. There was a little bit of sprinkles. And I'm not talking about the kind you put on a cupcake. I mean, there's a little bit of sprinkles going on from the sky and a little bit of clouds. We're having some of that right now as well. But you know where the heat's going. We're in August, dude. We have not 1 but 2 months left of this. 99 tomorrow, 102 Wednesday, 101 Thursday, and then high 90s as far as the eye can see. Why am I doing the weather report? Because American Energy, your local dealer, your local place, your local company since 1981. Can you tell I'm stressing local? They've got a $49 tune-up offer for your air conditioner, and you get a free indoor air quality test. All you got to do is ask for one. It's simple. $49 to tune up your air conditioner to make sure that A, there's nothing crazy wrong with it that's about to pop and cost you thousands of dollars. B, make sure it's running as efficiently as possible so that those bills aren't sky high. 520-9990. That's 916-520-9990. American Energy Air and Solar, trying to exceed your expectations of the heating and air industry by valuing your experience. Go to AmericanEnergyAir.com and you tell them your good buddy Carmichael Dave sent you. We're back to talk about the newest Sacramento Kings signing and so much more right after this.
You ask for more 49ers coverage, and Sactown Sports 1140 listen.
Let's go, Niner gang!
Get all the latest 49ers news and notes online at SactownSports.com. Plus, make sure to follow us on IG at Sactown1140 for Emil Fergoso's live postgame show following every game.
That is what we expect out of the Niner gang. Niners win!
Your home for the most 49ers coverage in Sacramento.
Sactown Sports 1140.
The PGA Tour is back in Napa Valley with the Fortinet Championship. Join us September 15th through the 18th at Silverado Resort and Spa for world-class golf, Napa hospitality, and powerhouse performances by Cole Swindell and One Republic. Secure tickets now at FortinetChampionship.com.
I'm sure you've heard the phrase, let Safe Credit Union put you first. Well, that phrase is honest, genuine, and sincere. Hi, this is Frank LaRosa for Safe Credit Union. At Safe, you're not a number. You are part of a member-owned, community-focused family. Explore the benefits of saving, borrowing, and investing with a partner who puts you first. Safe Credit Union is insured by NCUA.
Okay, open wide. Good to see you've been flossing. What's on your chest? Oh, that's just my lentil soup. It was supposed to be here an hour ago. I'll say it's unprofessional. We should have ordered through Easy Cater. Food shows up on time as ordered. Yeah, it really burns me up too. Oh, the soup. Oh, hold my crackers. I'll go get the lead apron.
Some food just doesn't work at work, but Easy Cater just does. Food for work on time and as ordered from over 85,000 restaurants. Order 24/7 at EasyCater.com.
The biannual blowout is just a week away, and we've got a lot of work to do.
Keenan's Rug Emporium is rolling out a Labor Day bonanza.
We have that flatweed shipment coming in.
He needs 10 new sales associates as the crowds loom large.
Someone run a stock check on all the Moroccan 8x10s?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The 94th most popular celebrity from Carmichael
How popular do you want to be?
meets a Celtics broadcasting legend.
Celtics are going to go for the win. Everybody here at Golden One Center on their feet.
The Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross on Sactown Sports 1140.
Wow, is that Vlade Divac on the mic I see, Jason Ross?
Yeah, is that Gus on the mic I see?
Yeah, you see Gus the Bus making a special appearance. He came down as the house here starts to wake up. I am at home. Gus the Bus. If you're on YouTube, you can see him. He's probably not the happiest guy right now, but I'm going to give him a little bit of TV time because he is. I need to bring him back in. He's growing So he's a lot bigger now than the last time you saw him. I can tell you that much. I will be in studio on a Thursday. We explained it earlier, but just some leftover. Got to be careful, COVID restrictions. But Jason, happy to report you're feeling great.
Yeah,
I'm over it. My daughter, my wife, they're both fully over it, and my son is like, COVID. Everybody got it, but me.
It'd be okay if I got it, Dad.
I mean, if you want me to get it, I can. I just don't really. Matthew Dellavedova. I don't know if he's ever had COVID or not, but I do know he's got a shiny new deal with the Sacramento Kings. Be interesting to see what type, if any, impact this will have on the team. But it's one of those. It's one of those under the radar moves. I don't have any. I don't have any thoughts that Matthew Dellavedova is going to be going for 30 and 20 and killing it for this team, but just one of those guys that's just scrappy, hard nosed, high IQ, been there, done that type of thing, and it would be a good locker room guy, you would think, and a good on the floor scrappy guy.
Yeah, going into the year, the way the team is constructed, I feel like my opinion now would be if he's playing, that's a problem, but maybe that's injury or other things. But that's not always the case. It could be maybe he's earned it. I mean, if that's the case where there was a time where he was a pretty decent player in this league, he was on a championship caliber team. He was a big player, a big piece to what they were doing. Obviously, LeBron was the piece, but I just feel like it's depth. Likely Dave, the third point guard. I'm thinking behind Davion and certainly behind De'Aaron, but experienced. Your rosters, when you're looking at your 13, 14, 15 guys, those aren't the difference makers, but they're also part of the equation. It can still really help your team, though.
When you look at this roster, are you've got a backcourt now that's got some interchangeables, guys that can move up and down. Are we a little worried about the depth behind Harrison Barnes? Do you think that'll work itself out?
I think that's the lightest part. The most glaring to me going in is kind of that 3, maybe even 3-4, but probably 3 position as far as depth. But I think that interchangeable parts, maybe you're seeing Herter go there some. A few other guys you could probably even play small at times or play bigger and move other guys down. So I think they've got some things to go there, but you're not going to be stacked in every position across the board.
I want to give you some perspective, by the way. You know what? I'm going to put the dog down for this. For people. I don't want people listening to me talk about Deshaun Watson with my bulldog in the screen. Okay. So we talked about this earlier. Calvin Ridley made a bet that his team will win a game in the NFL. He got suspended indefinitely through at least the entire 2022 season, possibly more still, by the way. $11.1 million in salary gone for Calvin Ridley. DeAndre Hopkins, 6-game suspension for a PED violation. Josh Gordon suspended 78 games for repeatedly smoking marijuana. Vincent Jackson had no driver's license. He was suspended 3. Plexico Burress got suspended 4 games for shooting himself in the leg. You could go on and on and on. Here's one. Greg Hardy beat his girlfriend brutally. He got 10 games reduced to 4. Let's see. Ray Rice was suspended 2 games. We forget that. I mean, obviously his career changed forever. And Adrian Peterson, felony child abuse, 6 games. Just putting this all in perspective, and certainly, by the way, not saying any of these folks got suspended more or less than they should have. This is not an opinion point. It's just simply to, as we talked about the inconsistencies, Deshaun Watson was facing over 24 sexual misconduct lawsuits, and Deshaun Watson will get 6 games. And in the process of missing those 6 games, Jason, if I'm doing my math right, 6 is just over a third of the full 17-game season. So Deshaun Watson, it sounds like, because his massive contract was reduced to $1 million. They structured it that way
this year, yeah.
In year 1, it sounds like Deshaun Watson's going to lose somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000.
Okay,
that's the deal. $400,000. So that all being said, I've purposely waited until 8:33 when we've been talking about this on and off all day, because of course what's important is, the off-field stuff and the non-football stuff, but there are football questions. So my question is this: Deshaun Watson, now we know, will not be on the Browns for the first 6 games. If you are Cleveland, does that close the door, crack it open, or open the door on possibly talking to the Niners about Jimmy Garoppolo?
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Cleveland's only play there is if the Niners end up getting to a spot where they have to release him. Then I'd be intrigued because I don't have to give up anything to get him. I gave up a lot to get Deshaun Watson, who, on your point, they structure the contract after this year, isn't he, like $46 million a year, something ridiculous?
Yeah.
So you need every other asset you can keep. And I think maybe now, knowing that there's a timetable, I think week 7 is the Ravens. Can you get through those 6 weeks at 2-4, 3-3, 4-2, then you feel great with Jacoby Brissett or just some other version of, counting on the defense, counting on Nick Chubb, counting on the other pieces that you have, and then you go forward and say, all right, here's where we're starting. We knew Deshaun Watson had some baggage coming in. We made the trade. We made the contract extension. He's our quarterback. So I think, to me, I think that door is closed unless Jimmy G is released and you want to kick the tires and bring him in for the beginning, for that first 6-7 games possibly. But I don't think so.
Well, and nothing against Jacoby Brissett, it just has not been an overly successful NFL quarterback record-wise, whereas Jimmy Garoppolo has. Whether Jimmy would be the right guy or not, the thing I wonder about Cleveland is this is not an untalented team. You mentioned Nick Chubb, and he's got Kareem Hunt backing him up, and Dearness Johnson, who, when they were both out last year, had some fantastic games. They acquired Amari Cooper last year. David Njoku is a fine tight end, and then we haven't even gotten into their defense with Myles Garrett, who we mentioned last week is a 99 in Madden, so that must mean he's very good. Former number 1 pick Davion Clowney in there, Denzel Ward, who is hurt right now, but the Browns are not without talent. They had a down year last year, but some of these guys are running out of time. They were 8-9, and you got to think, obviously, Deshaun Watson makes them tons better. 6 games is, again, just over a third of the season. I think if Cleveland could get out with a split,
oh, they'd be thrilled.
Let me give you their 6 games here. At Carolina,
okay,
home against the Jets.
Which that Carolina one's the odd one with Baker.
Exactly. Yeah, that'll be a fun storyline. Home Jets, home Steelers, at Falcons, home Chargers, home Patriots. Jason,
wow. That's one playoff team, the Patriots, right?
Yes. Did the Chargers?
No.
Yeah.
Raiders beat them last week.
That's right. So just between the Jets and the Roethlisberger-less semi-rebuilding Steelers alone, the Falcons are not a great team, and obviously missing Calvin Ridley. The Panthers seem to perhaps be better on paper, but again, that's that. I don't think a 3-3 split. If you told me right now the Browns are going to start out 3-3, I wouldn't be like, you're crazy,
right?
So, to your point, if they can go 3-3 and then they have the rest of the season with Deshaun Watson, even if it takes him again, it's set right now. Deshaun Watson will come back and hit, if it ends up being 6 games and blah, 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 and he comes back for the 7th, he's coming back against the Ravens in Baltimore, then home against the Bengals, then at Miami, which is an improved team, then at the Bills, then they host the Buccaneers until he gets the Titans on the road, followed by Cincy. So the Browns are certainly getting the bulk of the easy part of their schedule, and I don't know if this is a coincidence or not. Maybe it was, but they're certainly getting the bulk of that easy schedule in those first 6 games.
What if they do great when he's out? You still go right to Deshaun Watson, don't you?
Of course,
yeah.
You have to. Yeah, they could be 6-0. And it becomes interesting and it becomes fun, sports talk fodder. But yeah, even if they were 6-0 and were winning games by an average of 21 points, it's like, okay, well, cool. They'll win them by average of 42 points with Deshaun Watson.
Right.
And there you go. So it'll be interesting to monitor that, one of many storylines leading in, and checking into this poll, Jason, we put out there. We asked if Deshaun Watson, according to our audience, was suspended the right amount of time, not enough at all, somewhere in the middle. We're now up to 500 votes, 90%. It was 100 through 19. 90% say that he should have been suspended more.
Wow. Okay.
You know who also the top name is trending in baseball right now?
Who's that?
It's not Aaron Judge.
Should be.
It's Trevor Bauer.
Oh.
The top name suspended in the NFL. And most people looking through the conversation, for example, Deshaun Watson, 6 games, 340,000. Trevor Bauer, 324 games, $64 million. We did the same thing when we talked about these two. But my goodness, what I don't want this to do is turn into a sympathy campaign for Trevor Bauer. Can we please not do that?
Yeah.
I don't need to feel bad for Trevor Bauer. I think more the point is feel a little uncomfortable at this rink-eating suspension they gave Deshaun Watson. We don't have a ton of time here. In fact, Jay, how much time do we have? About a minute? I would have 90 seconds. Okay. Just real quick, though, because we talked at length about Will Clark.
Yeah.
And his number retirement over the weekend. Who was... Am I right? Well, I'll let you answer because I think I know the answer. But who was your Will Clark growing up, Jason?
Actually, I'd be curious your guess.
I honestly, if I had to guess, because I know through more than just sports, but I know Greg Nettles was such a huge part of your life, and I wasn't sure if that crossed over into the Will Clark type thing. I know there's a familial connection there as well.
Yeah, well, certainly that was going to be the one that, if they were ever on TV, I was watching him. Certainly every morning, eating cereal, reading the box scores, always checked his numbers. But a little bit late, his career was pretty far into when I was growing up.
Sure.
So, I would say I had a couple. I was a huge Ricky Henderson, Tony Gwynn, and then I guess the closest thing would probably be Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly might have been my Will Clark, but it was either him or Gwynn or Henderson.
Wow. Henderson? I get it. Mattingly, of course. One of these kids is doing his own thing with Tony Gwynn. That's pretty cool. Non-Yankee.
Oh, right. Well, Henderson was, to me, I thought of him as an Oakland A, but
okay.
Yeah. And then Tony Gwynn, I don't know. I just loved him, loved his swing. There were so many stats about him that were just amazing about how Maddox never struck him out. Pedro Martinez never struck him out. That's crazy.
I'm thinking about Tony Gwynn right now. We got a break. One thing, he's been gone way too long. It's so early.
True.
And I'm with you. He was, even though he beat out my guy Will Clark for the batting title, that one year they raced back and forth. You might forget about Tony Gwynn. That always brings a smile on my face is that pitch in his voice.
Yes.
Like when Tony talked, it looked like, this voice does not match this man. And you'd hear him talk, and the next thing you know, you just want to hear him talk for hours because anytime Tony Gwynn got on a topic, he'd run circles around anyone else in the room. Man, I miss that guy. We'll take a break. When we come back, we close out. I think because Jason's back, I hope that means we get a celebrity birthday or two.
Yes.
Didn't get Friday Fun and Games on Friday. We're withdrawing from that, having withdrawals. We'll also have some news, days of the month, all that fun stuff. We wrap up with everything next.
The start of the NFL season is upon us. and Cooling Company and Second Opinion Partner.
All right, let me use this segment. I'm gonna hijack my own segment. We're not gonna really do what's hot or what's not. I wanted to quickly just highlight the great rivalry that was Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. Obviously, if you're just joining the show and been under a rock the last couple days, the iconic Bill Russell passed away yesterday at age of 88. However, this is one of the great rivalries of all time. So let's just kind of look at it. As far as MVP awards go, Bill Russell won 5, Wilt Chamberlain won 4. All-Star games, Russell had 12, Chamberlain had 13. This is the fun one, though. In the finals, win-loss, head-to-head, 11-1 Bill Russell, 2-4 Wilt Chamberlain.
Mm-hmm.
Them damn Celtics, man.
Right? More like the big couldn't beat Bill Russell instead of Big Dipper. No?
Right on.
Bill.
Yeah.
Right on.
Can't get better than that. Ready for the news?
I am ready for the news. Please, God.
Stand by on this frequency.
It's time for the news of the day.
Thank you for ruining the show and dropping a steamer on my journalistic integrity.
Today's important headlines, intelligent analysis, hard-hitting interviews.
Yeah, this is none of those things.
Here's Carmichael Dave and Jason Ross.
Oh my God, I love those guys.
All right, just a couple quick things for you here before we get to the what day today is. Want to mention Nichelle Nichols, who played the role of Uhura. We talked about that very early in the show. I think the first segment. She also passed away over the weekend. And it's always tough when you get multiple iconic folks that pass away, and this was on the same day, I think.
Yes.
Because obviously we're going to focus on Bill Russell, but then it's like, oh, well, but don't forget about Nichelle Nichols. If Bill Russell had not passed away over the weekend, Nichelle Nichols would be leading a lot of stories right now, not just for Trekkies and Uhura and all that stuff, but the first on-screen interracial kiss with Captain Kirk. She was a pretty. She had a pretty cool life by now.
For sure.
Yeah, Nichelle Nichols will be missed.
Loved her on ESPN.
Nichelle.
Oh,
Nichols.
sorry.
You're such a ding dong. 41 years ago today, the launch of MTV. Growing up in MTV and all that, and I will forever, I don't know why, but I always associate Jump by Van Halen, but mainly Sledgehammer and the song Big Time by Peter Gabriel with early MTV days, the Dancing Chickens and all that. I understand that I know that music videos aren't as popular anymore, though I see they are still made. But why aren't music videos popular anymore?
Yeah, because they kill it on YouTube, right?
Is that what it is?
Theory.
They just switched to YouTube?
Yeah, they're still popular. They just people don't go to the TV for them anymore because they have them, again, like Jason said, on YouTube.
But it's the whole, people still listen to music radio and hear DJs and stuff. Like, what about Kurt Loder and Adam Curry and Tabitha Soren and the whole, why do we not have a channel?
Boy, you sound old right now.
I know.
Hey, Kurt Loder.
Ricky Rackman, Headbangers Bull. Man,
why isn't American Bandstand on anymore? Where's Dick?
Hey. Just saying, I'm unplugged and, all the things that MTV. Jason, I miss MTV.
You want your MTV?
I do.
Dave, the internet was invented.
Yeah, I get it, but I'll catch my wife every. Hey, what is it you watch? VH is it
Jersey Shore?
Yeah, she watches Jersey Shore. She watches MTV Classic, and I know there's VH1 Classic, and I don't know. I'm just saying,
having a moment.
Yeah, well, no, I had a moment over the weekend too because our friends came over for our weekly Spades game, and I came outside, and my wife and her friend were talking about this true crime podcast that they listen to, and this was after two other lady friends of mine over the weekend were also talking about a different true crime podcast, and I realized this, and I don't like to stereotype or generalize, so I'm about to. At least in my life, and I don't know if this is in anyone else's life, every woman I know is absolutely addicted to true crime television and podcasts. And I kind of freaked out. I was like, you only have so much free time in the day, right? Who voluntarily spends, you know what? I don't have anything to do right now. I don't want to do Jenny and her son Billy were walking home one day, but they never made it. Find out about the brutal murder and everything that goes with it next on this podcast for the next hour. And then you go through it, and it's brutal and terrible and horrible. And then what do? You sign up for the next one. What is this phenomenon I'm witnessing, and why do people do this?
I think it's like any of those shows. You know, when reality shows started, when anything, it's like, well, this isn't my life. And that's a good thing, I guess, in this case, right? Where I've not been murdered.
Right.
I haven't murdered somebody. But, man, it does go on, and thank goodness it's not in my life.
So it's funny.
Is my guess.
Jason, you very much, the one point Melissa made to me in the thing is she said, I guess maybe some way subconsciously it makes me feel lucky and better about, but
or she's crafting a potential idea.
Yeah, all she's doing is plotting your death and finding ways to get around it.
Yeah,
that was the other point I brought up. I said, the other thing about all these true crime shows, like the First 48 and all that, how many people has it taught over the years? How many people have these shows taught over the years to commit better crimes?
Right.
And are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Again, these podcasts are educational. Whatever kind of education you want out of it, I guess.
I know the answer here. Either you guys into true crime shows or podcasts?
No.
Yes.
Are you really?
Not the podcast, but I watch a lot of Dateline.
Really?
Yes.
I did not have that on my bingo card.
Yes. It's Keith Morrison in his voice. It was no ordinary Tuesday night.
I used to like when I was a kid sometimes Unsolved Mysteries, but that's about it.
That was a horror show.
Yes.
Listen, dude, Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack.
Oh, you said horror.
Horror.
Yeah.
Dude, it was probably, honest to God, the scariest TV show I ever saw, because Robert Stack would be like, Mindy Johnson of Ohio was on her way to her friend Jill's house for a wonderful evening of wine and board games, and she never made it. Here's the story, and they'd reenact it.
And it was the music underneath it that was so creepy.
100% it was the music. And then the thing that got me is, and this is so obscure, but every once in a while, the story would end, and then it'd be like, update. And the music stinger for the update, where they like caught the guy or something or found a new clue, there were many, many times I would sleep, all the lights on. Robert Stack's going to pop in here and murder me. Like, why would he murder me? He's not a criminal, but sure picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue, guys. That's an airplane reference. Yes. Celebrity birthdays, Jason Ross.
Yes. Let me give you another couple things on this date. Hey, guys, the 1997 Air Bud came out.
Never seen Air Bud.
I thought you would have seen Air Bud.
No. I've also never seen Air Bud, but wait a second. Hey, Mel, how was Air Bud? Oh, she's never seen. My wife has seen every movie ever. None of us have seen Air Bud.
How about in this date, 2014, Guardians of the Galaxy came out?
Oh, love Guardians of the Galaxy.
That I did see. I'm not as big a Guardians fan as everyone else, but it was a fine movie.
Well, that's because you're a Niners fan. I mean, a Giants fan. Damn it, I messed that up. I started thinking Commanders.
Yes.
All right.
All right, here we go, guys. So let people that can say that they were born today on August 1st. Let's wish happy birthday to Edgerrin James.
Oh, the Edge!
Former running back. Edge. How old is the Edge today?
The Edge. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, let's see. University of Miami, Edgerrin James. I'm going to say he is. Let me do some math here.
We need an answer.
48.
Okay.
I'm going to go 44.
The correct answer is J. Mars. 44.
Yeah!
Right on the button.
Stop Googling.
Happy birthday to reigning Rookie of the Year, Scotty Barnes. Young pup.
Scotty Barnes is legally able to drink today.
Scotty Barnes is 20.
Jay 20, Dave 21.
Yeah.
Correct answer is 21. Carmichael Dave right on the button.
Don't step to me.
Happy birthday to, I just blanked on the group. Counting Crows, Adam Duritz.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Counting Crows.
So they just shampoo my crotch. I hate that.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Line of the show.
There's a woman in your presence right now, sir.
Sorry, baby.
Gus the bus was offended.
Mr. My buddy was like a Counting Crows smash.
Can you just guess the age? We don't need the backstory.
We don't need to count all the crows. We just need an age.
I was going to go on a whole wavelength. I hope he's okay. Adam Duritz is 91.
Okay.
I'm going to go 49.
All right. You both were off, but he's 58 today.
Oh, damn.
58.
Yeah.
The Counting Crows are that old?
Yes. The birds are more years than one. Happy birthday to Madison Bumgarner.
Mad Bum.
37.
I'm going to say 36.
33 for Madison Bumgarner. I don't know how old the other Madison Bumgarner is, but probably also 33.
Yeah, the one he dated.
Yes. Coolio.
Oh, jeez.
Hey. On a fantastic voyage. How old is Coolio today?
Paradise.
Used to sing at Kings games. He was at the Kings game last year.
He's at a Kings game every year.
Yes.
It's part of that rotating old people list they have.
Hey.
Coolio. I would say he is 54.
I was going to say 54 as well, so count me. We'll tie if we do.
Okay, he is 59.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right, happy birthday today to, he was a Kings coach last couple years, Stacey Augman.
Plastic Man.
Plastic Man. Okay, I think I'm going to get really close on this. I'm going to say he's 48.
I'm going to say he's 53.
I love that Dave's like, I'm going to get really close. He's 54.
I am the winner.
Okay, happy birthday to Austin Rivers.
Oh, geez.
Oh. I loved his movies, though. What was that with the Spy Who Shagged Me?
Yes.
And,
I like gold. Yeah. Austin Rivers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Austin Rivers is 29.
I was going to say 29 as well.
Okay, well, he is 30. He was 29 yesterday.
Golly gosh darn it.
Jason Momoa.
Oh, sexy man.
Aquaman. Should be Aqua Person, by the way. Jason Momoa. You know what? He's going to be one of these weird ones who's probably older than I am. I'm going to say he's 40.
I'm going to say 42.
He is 43. Last one for you guys. Yeah. Former Kansas and Carolina coach Roy Williams.
Old as dirt.
Roy Williams is 76.
Roy Williams, 74.
He is 72 today. There you go, guys. Well done.
You know what? The fact that I got two, it's a win.
Yeah.
Today is also World Scout Scarf Day, International Mahjong Day, Respect for Parents Day, National Raspberry Cream Pie Day, National Girlfriends Day, and International Child Free Day. So congratulations to my little sister and all those out there that have, don't have little selfish kids around the house. Jason, Jay, Jerry Reynolds, so many of you, thanks so much. Jim Rome is next, and Cattles and Rami this afternoon. Bye-bye now.
Live and past broadcasts of the Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross and Cattles and Rami.
Interviews, podcasts, and more.
They all live on the Sactown Sports 1140 app. Download the app now in the App Store and Google Play.
Drive anywhere, like right through your fence and into your car. My bad, bro. And if you have the wrong insurance, the cost of fixing this mess could really hurt. So bundle your home and auto with Allstate to save money and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage that's selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Vehicle and Property Insurance Company.